join. The volunteers. Yeah.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரிதனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போலனை துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெருந்தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
May I request anyone else standing at the back who has not a place to please come and take any seat that is empty, and for others also if they can come forward. We'll start today's Golden Jubilee alumni function for our 1971 batch by requesting the chairman of our organizing committee, Jai Kishan Jawar, to deliver a welcome address. Jai Kishan, please come up.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Velraj, Registrar, Dr. Ravi Kumar, Dean, Dr. Sugandhi, faculty and students of Anna University, alumni of 1971 batch of this campus, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the Golden Jubilee celebrations of CEG 71. A big vanakkam to everyone assembled here. The highlight of this celebration is the e-governance system that my 1971 batch has gifted to Anna University, covering all its 4 campuses. Now I take this opportunity to share some of my thoughts about Indian education system. India is transiting into a modern economy poised for yet another huge leap. Given that the contribution of industry and services together account for over 80% of India's gross value addition, India is poised for yet another big leap. We know that the role played by engineers in nation building is vital and irreplaceable. It is the engineering talent which is responsible for India's economic growth in various fields, including software, fintech, automobiles, defense, aerospace, and many other sectors. Today, India remains the top choice for technology service providers across the world and is now a product engineering hub. It would not be wrong to say that the history of Indian engineering is as old as civilization. Innumerable archaeological evidences are available which reflects our traditional expertise in the field of engineering and architecture, whether it is intricate temple architecture on wood and stone, water reservoirs such as Vietnam Lake from Chola era, dams and stepwells, and many other engineering marvels that have stood the test of time and ravages of history. Also, the shipbuilding technology in India goes back to the 3rd millennium BCE, when the first tide dock of the world for berthing and servicing ships was constructed at the port town of Lodhal in today's Gujarat, which essentially highlights our maritime history. All these examples and evidences bears testimony to the vast knowledge in our Vedas and Shastras which have contributed to sustainable engineering and technology. It is now time we look inward into our own time-tested knowledge, resources that are aligned to the needs of our people, our environment, and our way of life. One of the biggest drawbacks of Indian engineering education is a lack of exposure to the integrated problem solving outside their subject study. They are not given an opportunity for an end user solution by harnessing and integrating knowledge across multiple disciplines. We can call it solution engineering. This needs to be taught explicitly. Students are taught the output of Western science, but not the method of science, how a scientist arrives at his or her conclusions in a field. Therefore, we are unable to produce original thinkers and path-breaking innovations. Scientific thinking and integrated problem solving is innate to Indian native education. But over the last 200 years, we have systematically denied Indian education to Indians. We borrowed the output of Western education, but not its method. So we ended up being followers rather than leaders. The remedy is to re-examine ancient Indian knowledge methods and make education experiential like it used to be. Awareness of one's own roots instills pride and confidence. The new education policy emphasizes the need to incorporate Indian Knowledge System, or IKS, as part of school, college, and university education across various streams. Studying and incorporating concepts on Vastu Shastra, Shilpa Shastra, Agma Shastra, and other traditional knowledge resources will help develop sustainable solutions in architecture, infrastructure development, and urban planning. The other IKS areas like Ayurveda, Nyaya Shastra, Tark Shastra, Artha Shastra, and principles of Ganita and Jyotisha will provide invaluable insights on astronomy and space. Siddhanta Knowledge Foundation is currently designing and developing the new IKS-driven curriculum, which will be building block for the next generation of synthesized pedagogy with a focus on traditional thinking and holistic approach. This will be a fundamental change to the current approach of blindly importing Western knowledge system without sufficient critical analysis. For the next couple of generations, young engineers have to be involved in this new kind of synthesized systems building. The culture of meritocracy is the most important, and this has been seriously weakened. Leaders and policymakers need to critically appraise our current system, including the prevailing innovation culture. Digitization has been a game changer for India and has ensured unprecedented financial inclusion across all states of society, and also ensured corruption-free public distribution system for various welfare schemes, which is saving exchequer several lakh crores annually. Digitization is also key to new investments in manufacturing, education, healthcare, agriculture, financial services, and startup ecosystem, focusing on deep tech and sunrise sectors. In addition to this, steps are taken to strengthen engineering and technology education in India by launching new and cutting-edge courses like data science, electric mobility, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques, as well as skill development programs targeting specific areas of expertise. These provide a vibrant platform for our new and upcoming engineers to play a constructive and impactful role. From an India perspective, while we focus on institutional infrastructure and introducing new and relevant courses, it is vital to create a competitive academic environment. Such an environment would be driven by partnership between academia and industry, and alumni too can play an important role. India's growth as an economic superpower must coincide with our rise into a globally reputed destination for STEM education. However, we face a challenge. According to study in 2022, employability among Indian engineering and management graduate was just 55%. One way to change this is to make it compulsory for every engineering graduate to take up 2 years internship with industries, like they do with the doctors. A new initiative, Professor of Practice, will ensure universities to engage with professionals and industry experts who will provide practical insights to students on various subjects. For India to emerge as a Vishwa Guru, it is important that we leverage our demographic dividend and channelize the talent and energies of our youth into nation building. Lastly, in my opinion, the purpose of engineering is to identify problems and find lasting solutions which can contribute to improved standard of living and economic development. Yes, we face many problems and challenges in India, but then every problem is also an opportunity. And if every opportunity can be exploited by our young engineers, India can regain its position when Bharat, during the early 1000 CE, was the most advanced and prosperous nation in the world, having a share of 35% of the world GDP, which was brought down to 2% after British left. I once again welcome the dignitaries on stage and to everyone assembled here. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Jai Kishan. May I now request Jai Kishan to deliver and honor the VC with a Golden Jubilee plaque. May I now request our Registrar, Dr. Ravi Kumar, to address the gathering. Dr. Ravi Kumar.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellor, beloved alumni of 1971 batch, other senior alumni, faculty colleagues, and my dear student friends. So on behalf of Anna University, respected Vice Chancellor, and on my own behalf, I welcome the 1971 batch alumni back to the alma mater 50 years after their graduation. And the alma mater, it's not only the place where you have studied, it's also a place where you have lived for 5 full years with great reminiscence over 5 decades. So in any office, we normally think we spend more amount of time. Maybe even if you are in the campus for 8 hours, out of 24 hours, it's only 1/3. But if you deduct the sleeping hours, it's only 8 out of 16. So it is 50%. So we spent a major part of our life in the campus when you studied. It's almost next to your native place with all the memories. So the Alumni Connect, you are coming back here after 50 years to see the College of Engineering Guindy, which had grown leaps and bounds. So during your time, maybe the per year student strength is around 200 to 250, whereas now we have almost 1,000 per year. So it had grown almost by 4-fold. But compared to the growth of additional PG courses and doctorates, we have almost 8,000 to 9,000 is our CEG population as of today, which is a great increase over these 5 decades. Even in the hostels, there were 10 hostels with hardly one hostel meant for ladies during 70s and 80s, whereas now we have almost 5,000 students in the hostel with around 2,000 students in the girls' hostel alone. So you will also be happy to see the campus not only grown by numbers, but the entire campus is still like a park with trees all around with all the shades and memories. And I'm happy to share that for the past, there have been a lot of development over the years. Starting from 1978, the Anna University was formed. But the CEG, keeping its identity within Anna University, is still growing and growing with strength as well as in excellence. I'd like to inform you a few notable improvements for the past 1.5 years after the present respected Vice Chancellor took over, which are very significant for your information. The first one is we are introducing a 6 months internship for the B courses during the final year. This is for the first time in the history of engineering technology for all the engineering colleges throughout the state. The second one, especially with the initiative of our present respected Vice Chancellor, we have created 15 research centers of excellence. In the sense, right from 1978, Anna University or College of Engineering Guindy is known for creating centers of excellence, starting from the Center for Water Resources, Center for Environmental Studies, Institute of Remote Sensing, Institute of Energy Studies, AUFRG, Center for CADCOM Center, etc., which are autonomous centers within the university. They are headed by the professors designated as centers, and they are given autonomous powers, including financial powers, which enable them to do faster administrative and technical work. And centers of excellence, the concept which is not available even in IIT even today. So the giving autonomy to such centers is helpful in creating centers of excellence and growth. In that line, the respected President Vice Chancellor created 15 research centers within 1.5 years, and they range from Center for IoT, Center for Cyber Security, Center for Artificial Intelligence, including some unconventional centers like Center for Liberal Arts, Center for Technology in Traditional Medicine, etc., etc. So these are the very new developments which you will be happy about. And a few lines about the Alumni Connect. In fact, we have the AACEG, Alumni Association of College of Engineering Guindy, which is going to celebrate 100th year maybe in another 2 years' time. So with all this contribution, we have a 6,000 square foot building within the campus, doing various activities mainly for the student supports, either in terms of scholarship or for mentoring, etc., etc. And we know and we appreciate Sigana in North America, which is also spearheading a lot of activities towards the CEG. But somehow, in fact, I was even the AACEG president during 18 to 20. I see a lot of gap and scope for vast improvement of alumni connect and contribution. In the sense, though there may be around 50,000 alumni, CEG alumni throughout the world, hardly 10% of the alumni are connected to the alma mater, either to AACEG or to CEG. So to improve this, in fact, maybe even 20 years back, Professor Kalanidhi started this Center for Alumni Affairs of Anna University, with due respect to all the individual alumni associations of CEG, SETEC, SAP, and MIT. But somehow in between it had not grown. But 2 years back, Professor Sorappa initiated again to improve it, and especially with the present respected Vice Chancellor's efforts, you will see a lot of improvements in the Center for Alumni Affairs in connecting to all the alumni throughout the world, by which you will also have a lot of contributions from the alumni to the college. And especially, the Alumni Connect is very much essential, not only for financial support, it's only one part of it, but the alumni are better equipped to guide the students in certain areas which, I admit openly, even the faculty members may not be able to do. Especially, though many of us have all the international exposure, including President Vice Chancellor and myself, additional registrar, having trained in leadership academic programs in University of Cambridge and University of Oxford, etc., and visit several countries. The international alumni living abroad will be more matured and at a higher stature to guide the present CEG students for all their international studies and their international settling. That is one area. The second one I see, the concept of entrepreneurship and startups. Again, as faculty, we have never been entrepreneurs, and even the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the campus was literally missing for all those decades. But for the past decade, there is some smell of entrepreneurship in the campus, some smell of entrepreneurship activities supported by the state and central governments in various activities. But still, that is not sufficient. It's only the alumni entrepreneurs who are actual entrepreneurs who can support the present set of students or even the young alumni in making them entrepreneurs. In fact, in that direction only, the AACG was creating a CGAIN, CEG Alumni Incubator, during the presidential tenure of Engineer Karnagaran in 2016, nurtured by Engineer Sasi and a few other well-wishers. But we need a lot of support from the alumni, especially alumni entrepreneurs, in nurturing the CEG Alumni Incubator, so that our support to the CEG students in making them entrepreneurs may be at a great level. So with all this background, I welcome all of you, have a good stay today, and be connected to the CEG. Always, we are here to welcome you for every one of your connect and contribution in the future. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
May I now request J. Kishan Jawar to honor the registrar with a plaque. May I now request Dean CEG, our alma mater Dean, to please address the gathering. Let us give her a special hand because she belongs to CEG.
Respected Vice Chancellor, Registrar, the most important participants, the CEG 1971 alumni, dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, and student friends. It's an honor to stand here where I'm meeting the alumni of CEG who are returning back to the campus after 50 years. It is something to look up to feel proud that we also belong to CEG, and I'm sure our young students also understand what a momentous occasion it is today, where they look up to somebody who has traveled the life path and come back to the alma mater to say, yes, we have succeeded in this life and we want to give back to this university. So we are honored and blessed to be here, sir, to be part of this occasion. I'm sure any institution cannot stand alone. It needs 4 pillars. The government, of course, since it's a government institution, the faculty, that is the staff, both teaching, non-teaching, the student, and most important, the 4th pillar are the alumni. And we feel that without these 4 pillars, no institution can stand. I'm so proud to say that in CEG, we have an association, alumni association, which is going to celebrate its 100th year. So that is the tradition of CEG. And thinking back, I find that the alumni has supported this institution all through from the days they passed out. And this tradition has given so much confidence to the new entrants to this campus that they can also succeed in life. You name it, they are there. It could be Indian Administrative Service, Revenue Service, be it the top position, the President of India, name it, we find the alumni to be present everywhere all around the globe. So with this tradition, we are proud to be part of that tradition. And unless all 4 hands come together, I think no institution can stand. So that we request the students to understand the importance of what we are going through today, where we know what the alumni achieved in this 50 years, and the government holding hands to support us, to take us forward, and the staff of this university who is being a channel to help all of us get connected. The alumni has contributed a lot to this institution in terms of scholarship, in terms of internship, in terms of placement, in terms of seminars. Most important, hand-holding the students right from the day they become a CEG student. So today is a time where I need to place on record my sincere thanks to every alumni of CEG who have contributed for our student community and who have helped them to become great individuals in their own walk of life. So thanks to every member of the CEG family who has helped this to be a success. No student of CEG ever says they are in a financial situation, because at every instant, wherever there is a financial shortfall, we just link them to an alumni, and the alumni handholds them from the time they enter the institution till the time they leave the institution. So that support, that financial freedom is what we need to thank the alumni for. The soft skill training, bringing the industry to the classroom, giving them live experience, asking them to go through a stress interview, making them go through a mock interview. So many places alumni has contributed. We look up to you for more such contributions, and thanks very much for handholding us, for being a pillar of support to this institution. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, dear Dean CEG. May I request J. Krishnan Jawar to present a plaque to Dean CEG. now request our Vice Chancellor, Professor R. Velraj, to deliver the presidential address. Vice Chancellor.
Very good morning. Respected CEG 71 batch Organizing Committee Chairman, this Golden Jubilee Organizing Committee Chairman, Mr. Jaykrishnan Jawar, Vice Chairman, Mr. R.V. Gopalan, this Golden Jubilee major project instituted by the 71 batch E-Governance Project Committee Chairman, Mr. R.K. Shankar, Vice Chairman, Mr. Mohan Reddy, our panelists who are going to discuss about future of engineering education, Mr. Radha Basu, Mr. T.T. Narendran, Mr. G.S. Visweswaran, Mr. Rajaram Baliga, and all distinguished alumni, 71 batch alumni members and other alumni members, our registrar, Dr. Ravi Kumar, our dean, Dr. Shugandhi, faculty members and student friends. I am highly delighted to deliver my inaugural address on this wonderful occasion of CEG 71 batch Golden Jubilee celebration. First, I want to convey my heartfelt thanks to CEG 71 batch, particularly Mr. Shankar and his team members who worked for the last 2 years to implement this e-governance in our institution. For all 4 campuses, their contribution. First, I would like to thank you, sir, for your wonderful time. He has spent a lot of time during the last 2 years, and I wholeheartedly convey my thanks to all the alumni members and also our team members who contributed a lot along with them. I congratulate them for the successful implementation of this e-governance project. Because e-governance, it's an important project. Our Honorable Prime Minister also introduced digital governance. He tried to implement some 5 years or 7 years ago. But fortunately or unfortunately, after this COVID only, that picked up very well. This e-governance picked up very well, and our whole country is now trying to implement all e-governance, digital governance. Definitely, I am sure this implementation of this e-governance project will ease our work. Definitely, initially, some struggle will be there. If we cross all the hurdles and if we try to explain about this powerfulness to all the stakeholders, then it will be very helpful. All the stakeholders should accept this first. So that we are trying, and after this implementation, I am sure that production rate, you can say in industrial terminology, the production rate, the whatever work we are doing will increase several fold, and flexibility will be there. Even our faculty members can work at any time, even in the night time, during the weekend time they can work. So this productivity will increase, flexibility will enhance, and particularly the accountability will start coming. The accountability, because in Indian scenario, so normally those who are working hard with full dedication, வேலையை செய்கிறவனுக்கு வேலையை கொடு, வேலை செய்யாதவனுக்கு சம்பளத்தை கொடுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. So this concept will change, because accountability will start coming, and those who are not working will feel guilty. So that definitely it will improve the accountability in the coming days, and I am sure those who are any motivation if you give that enhancement in the quality of work, and the whole system will improve a lot. So definitely there is once only accountability is there, we can honor them, because otherwise no one knows in the university who is contributing or who is not contributing. So when the accountability comes, we are able to motivate the people with some kind of awards or incentives, then this the growth rate of this university will increase in several folds, that I am sure. So this I should thank again the 71 batch, all the alumni who have contributed and all the people who have contributed their time to implement this project. It's my heartfelt thanks to everyone. So before our chairman, he talked about the Indian knowledge system. Before that, I want to tell what is the, as our registrar also pointed out, the success of our College of Engineering, even compared to IIT. So our two stalwarts, visionaries I can say. So after the first Vice Chancellor, two Vice Chancellor, they worked for 15 years. So our Professor Ananda Krishnan and Mr. V.C. Kulandeswamy, Dr. V.C. Kulandeswamy, he worked for 9 years, and Dr. Ananda Krishnan worked for 6 years. They two are the Vice Chancellors who worked more than one term, but they were visionaries. They brought lot of good system in this university. So during their time only, as our registrar pointed out, lot of autonomous centers came. In civil, Center for Water Resources, Institute for Remote Sensing, Center for Environmental Studies, and later also one Center for Climate Change, Institute for Ocean Studies. These are the 5 powerful centers creating very good ecosystem to work and energy, environment and climate change ecosystem. So in this area, our university is the pioneer in the country, the energy, environment and sustainability, because of these 5 powerful centers. Because of these 5 powerful centers in this area, even I am in the energy field. In the mechanical side, then 2 centers were there, AU FRG Institute for CAD/CAM and Institute for Energy Studies. Luckily, I got the opportunity to work in these 2 centers as director. Then only I understood the power of these autonomous centers, because I got a full freedom. I can work like a CEO of a company. So if a person who is working in that centers are powerful, that growth will be very, very high. So I got the opportunity to work in the AUFRG Institute for CAD/CAM for 4 years and Institute for Energy Studies for 5 years. So in AC Tech, there are 3 centers, Center for Biotechnology, Crystal Growth Center and Nanotechnology Center. In MIT, only one center earlier there, which is Center for Aerospace Research. Do you know this power of this institution? There are 3 fields Anna University is doing excellent work that I have identified, and now I have connected these centers with the government, so that contribution will be there from the university to the society. So now this Center for Aerospace Research is doing good work in the drone area. So with our center this year, Tamil Nadu Government of Tamil Nadu joined with Anna University with the technical partnership with Anna University. This drone corporation, Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Corporation, was established this year in the month of February, January time. And we have very good ecosystem. The next best talent available, the knowledge talent available in this university, because all alumni should know what is our capability. So the next best capability is biomedical instrumentation. Biomedical instrumentation is because of this one center, that center I forgot. In the electronics area, during the Professor Ananda Krishnan time itself, he established one center for biomedical. Center for Biomedical, that was a fund sponsored by GTs. At that time it was GTs at Germany, now it's called GIS. So with the massive funding, he established one center for biomedical. So now recently, this biotechnology and biomedical instrumentation joined hands, and we got 75 crores funding from Central Government of India to become University Potential for Excellence. So that means University Potential for Excellence is the money given to excel in a field to project our university in the world level. So we got that opportunity, and now recently, last month, we have signed, I have projected this capability to the government. Now SIPCOT is going to make a very big industrial estate with our technical partnership, and some 4 or 5 weeks ago, I have made an agreement. We received in front of our Honorable Chief Minister, an agreement, MOU was signed with SIPCOT to provide a technical partnership in the area of biomedical instrumentation. The next best capability available in our university is energy, environment, climate change area. So in this area also, our energy director recently in front of our chief minister, he received a project from 10 crore project to establish very good ecosystem in the state of Tamil Nadu. Some 10 crore was allotted by government of Tamil Nadu to establish a green fellowship. That means through our energy center, all energy environment activities will be promoted throughout the state. So these 3 areas already we have very good strength, because these autonomous centers were established some 25 years ago. But during the last 25 years, there were, after this 2 visionaries, vice chancellors period, several centers that were doing excellent work now, that these centers are doing. But in the last 20 years, such kind of centers were not established, because in the electrical field, no centers are available. Civil old field, these professors, during their time, they have established a lot of centers. In the electrical engineering field, no centers. In electronics, 1 center was established, that is doing good. Biomedical instrumentation, jointly hand-holding with biotechnology, some biomedical instrumentation. Computer science, IT field, no centers were there. So this year, we have established 15 centers, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence, cyber security, and Internet of Things, liberal arts, and as our chairman pointed out, it's traditional knowledge promotion is also very much essential. So we have started 1 center for traditional medicine. So like that, 15 centers, electric vehicle is an important area. All these areas we have established. Hope these centers will contribute a big way in the coming years, because of the autonomy power which has. Then our alumni, I'm sure that as our dean pointed out, the 4 pillars of any institute is alumni contribution only, that many of the world rank universities in the US are functioning with the help of alumni only. They are doing the best with the help of the contribution by their own alumni, but for which a good system should be evolved. So now I should thank our CEG Alumni Association for the good contribution, who are making good contribution. They have some 4 crores asset, I think. With that, the interest amount and other help from the alumni members, they are doing good contribution to all our needy students. But what happens, whatever they are doing, the university itself, we do not know whatever contribution they are doing. So, but there are some ranks in the ranking association, that monitoring agencies. Now everywhere, if we silently work, we cannot project our university to the world. We need to project our university also. So for which ranking, nowadays NARF ranking, this accreditation associations are very much involved in that is also very helpful for the development, because when they monitor us, we also do very good work, documentation will come. So these things are to be documented, for which a very good system is required. Yeah, I had a discussion with Mr. Jawar for 1 hour, that at that time I understood anything which is possible with a kind of system evolvement. Yeah, that kind of system evolved it's required. So we need to, we have decided, as our former Vice Chancellor, he has initiated 1 center within the campus, because in IIT and IIT Bombay and all, alumni association separately functioning, and within the system, accountability will come. So we have established, and shortly the center will come with a very, very good website and web portal, so that alumni can contribute directly to this alumni through this portal. And major requirement for any success of any university is, so why these days, in the recent days, our Anna University could not succeed. So I will take some 5 minutes. I think that because all alumni will know, then you can understand why there is a fall. We are not able to, we were some 7 or 8 years ago, our rank in the national level was 8. Now it became 25. Last year it came down to 3 level, 25 it came, because it's a first technical university established in this country. But we should not be in the position of 25. We should come at least near to the less than 5. It is very much possible. It is very much possible. The major reason is any institute, the power will come with the high-end research and very good consultancy work what we are doing in this university. Only that kind of knowledge, when it transferred to the UG students, they also will become powerful. So the high-end research should take place. But to execute high-end research, what is required? Powerful researchers are required. Faculty cannot do that. We need powerful students. But we have powerful UG students, not powerful PG and PhD scholars. That is the problem. That we need to promote. Otherwise, all our UG students, I know you are all the highly capable people, the alumni, those who are Anna University alumni, BE batch means they are all powerful people. But after that, their contribution is for the research development, it is either to US or at least to the IIT, not to our own campus. So that is the problem. So we are not able to retain the students for research purpose, for which what I need, the recent days what happened, our central government has established several IITs and NITs. So when there were only 5 IITs and a few NITs, we had no problem. Because anyway, a lot of students were available, at least the remaining students out of IIT will come to us. But now, the interested, capable students are limited. More than that, seats are available in IIT, where scholarships are given in a large way by the central government. So that opportunity is not with us. So that too, the IIT Alumni Association is becoming very powerful. They are giving grant like anything to the students and faculty members. So the motivation is required for the research and postgraduate students to execute research, because high-end research only our capability of the teachers also will enhance. So when that knowledge is transferred to the young minds, they will become powerful. So what I request through the alumni portal, we want to create lot of fellowships to the research and postdoctoral students. When fellowships are available, we can attract to high-end students. But because all NITs, some 100 postgraduate the scholarships are granted, when they are given high money, we are not able to provide scholarship to all the PhD students. So that is the main reason we are not able to attract talents for our research. So my sincere request is, when the portal is initiated, hardly in another 1 month time, when the portal is initiated, I request all the alumni members to contribute some corpus fund. So in their name also we can institute some fellowship. So we want to initiate because we have very successful people, alumni. In MIT, our former president Abdul Kalam. And in their name we want to, those who are contributing little money, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs, for one postgraduate scholarship to give, we need a corpus fund of some 1.2 crores. For one PhD scholar to issue scholarship continuous, because anything should be sustainable. So we need to create a corpus fund. So PhD scholarship means the 75 lakhs is required. From that interest only we can give scholarship to one PhD scholar. Some 1.2 crores we need to give scholarship for one postdoctoral student. So we want to institute the scholarship for postdoctoral and doctoral student in the name of Abdul Kalam for MIT student, in the name of Varghese Korean, who is an alumni of CEG at Anna for at CEG campus, and in the name of Naidu Amma, who contributed a lot in AC Tech, in his name in the AC Tech Fellowship, and all others, if one person can contribute for 1.2 crores, in their name itself postdoctoral or doctoral fellowship will be constituted. So definitely, in addition, there is a drawback. There is a drawback in the sense, it's a state-funded university. In some of the implementation side, we have problem, in a long delay, and also whatever projects we are trying to implement, if you can do with some 10 crores, here it is taking 20 crores. So that we are not able to avoid, because there are a lot of systems involved. So there I can seek the alumni members so that a separate fund can be for any individual project. A committee can be constituted, task implementation, like this project. Yeah, this task implementation committee. So alumni can contribute for that particular task, and if it is implemented, not the fund without coming to Anna University, sometimes it will be very successful. So task implementation committee for a particular projects we want to create. So that kind of system, if it comes up, I am sure when there is a system, the kind of money will be unlimited. Definitely, a system will be evolved shortly in another 1 month time. So after that, all the alumni will get opportunity to contribute, because opportunity, if you get satisfaction also will come, I am sure. That definitely, then the growth rate will be very high for Anna University if alumni contribution started coming in a big way. And I also want to touch some few minutes what our chairman touched about Indian knowledge system. Indian knowledge system, yes, it is. Yesterday, during my talk, I gave one talk in Indian Indian Congress. Institution of Engineering Congress, I gave one address. So that is made available in our website also. So in that I made the SWOT analysis for our country. So our strength, weakness, opportunity and threat, that analysis for the country. As he pointed out, our strength is our traditional knowledge, youth power, good leadership presently available. These are our strength. So we need to project our traditional knowledge to the world so that we can gain respect from the world. So in our, because the major revenue one can get for any university, hereafter it is going to be online education system. So in the online education system, we are trying to, because if you tell Internet of Things, Anna University is going to teach, means they won't join. They will join in some Stanford University, or there only they will join. Those who have good money. Those who are not good money also will join in IIT only. So we want to start lot of traditional knowledge project first. We have started this, based on that only we have started a traditional medicine. Traditional medicine, yoga, our Vedic systems, all this, if it is projected to the whole world, some respect we may get. So we want to start some 6 months course in the Indian knowledge system, so that then we can project. If after getting respect, we can add any course, so we may get customers. So with that, we want to project our online system in a big way, and definitely, and particularly the whole, this country is a young country. Young country, I think you all might be knowing the average age of Indians, it is 29 years. It's out of the 130 crore population is there, the average age is only 29, means 65 crores of population is less than 29 years. Right? So it's a young country. The whole world, this Japan, all Europe, US, they all depend on our youth power only. On youth power only. All the countries planned how to attract our Indian brains. So if they have money power, if they attract our brain Indians, then we cannot succeed. So how to retain our brains in India, then only we can succeed, for which a lot of measures. So we do not know, when all the students, brainy students going away, it is good or bad, even I am not able to understand correctly. Because one side wealth may come, but the brain is draining means, but what I understood, any institute will become powerful if you are able to retain high intelligent people. So the country also will become powerful if you are able to retain high intelligent people in this country. So how to retain? Now our UGC has brought very good system, dual degree, twin degree, so that the students get knowledge from the foreign universities, but by studying here itself, so that the retaining capacity will increase. So for all that, Anna University is taking very good step. I seek all your support. One Mr. Ramesh, he came and volunteered if there is any good project. So I should thank him. I think he is here. He volunteered that any good project means he is ready to donate several crores. So like that, several people are there in this alumni. So I am sure after the system is formed, I may approach lot of people. So definitely your contribution will be very helpful to develop this university. I thank all the alumni members and all the students for the opportunity given by the this 71 batch committee, and I think everybody's contribution only will, because we are all stakeholders here, whomever here, all are our stakeholders. Everybody's contribution will definitely become win-win. I request all the alumni members and the students whose mind should be here in Anna University to develop this in a big way, to project this university in the world level. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, dignitaries on the dais. May I request the dignitaries on the dais to take their seats below, so we get to the three main events which we want to celebrate today. We were thinking, how do we celebrate our Golden Jubilee of giving back? And one theme came to us. We said, how do we connect with CEG to the past, to the present, and to the future? And so, our friends, we came up with 3 items on the program. For the past, we will have later in the day a talk by historian Sriram on the history of CEG. And for the present, we are going to give you a demonstration on the e-governance project that our 1971 batch has sponsored. And for the future, a panel discussion by our classmates on the future of engineering education. When I say that our Golden Jubilee project was funded by our alumni, I must say here, our alumni across the campus, AC Tech, is also part of it, which I shall speak about later. Before we start the walkthrough, I'd like to say the following. This digital transformation journey has been of the university, by the university, and for the university. Why do I say this? For our Golden Jubilee Giving Back project, we had thought of several brick and mortar projects. But Anna University convinced us that the digital transformation was the need of the hour. Anna University did not opt for a ready-made solution, but worked with us, accepting the challenges and pain points at several times in order to select a digital platform or a foundation that came from Cognitive Platform Solutions here in Chennai itself, on which each of their needs could be configured. And through the project, unstinted support, starting from the Vice Chancellor, because I did not even have to knock on his door, and without knocking, he would know it was me coming in. And flowing from that, the steering committee, the portfolio owners and teams, the project champions of the 4 campuses, and the Center of Governance, which will carry this project for the future. It's coincidental that the 3 alphabets of CEG is also shared by the Center for E-Governance. That's a big connect even in the letter. I must also highlight the generous contribution from so many of our CG 1971 alumni, even as it was increasing very much more than what was originally thought of or budgeted. And when we fell short, our dear friends from AC Tech, 1971 batch no less, came forward to bridge the gap so that we achieved financial closure. Probably Ramraj or YG Mahendran said they would be here, but if I don't see them, they are here in spirit and we thank them physically. So what is this digital transformation all about? The digital system connects every stakeholder across the 4 campuses: CEG, AC Tech, School of Architecture and Planning, MIT, students, faculty, deans, directors, VC and registrar, everyone, and integrates with the existing system. There are some systems which are existing. As a result, all the data and processes needed by each of every user to get work done is available and accessible easily, quickly, securely, and completely. The benefits are in order of magnitude. I don't wish to say more and let the walkthrough do the talking. Srinivasan, please start the demo.
Good morning all, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Shankar. So over the next 30 minutes, we will be looking at a walkthrough of the Anna University e-governance platform. So the way this session is structured is as follows. We will have a very brief overview of the solution, how it's approached, and then we will have a walkthrough. We would look at the solution from the following perspectives: student journey, faculty portal, the VC dashboard, and finally, how is it administered, the configuration, both from a functional perspective and from the IT perspective. Now, why is it called a platform-based e-governance system? So the core of the entire system is what we call a business process. Now, let's say a faculty is initiating a purchase request, or a faculty is traveling, or a student registers for a course, or a student has missed paying fees on time and requests for an extension of time. Each of these requests is referred to as a business process. It starts, it goes through several stakeholders for approvals, and finally it gets completed. So the idea of this platform is to streamline, systemize, and completely automate where possible all these business processes. So we convert or transform a business process into a process app. That is about this e-governance platform. So we have over 200 process apps across several modules. Now each of these process apps could leverage the following functionality. It can be workflow driven. For example, if I take a purchase as an example, for a large university like Anna University, there are so many complexities. How do I make the purchase? Is it from institute fund? Is it from project fund? Is it from schemes? And what kind of items am I purchasing? And what is the amount which is required? Based on all these things, the system could be different. That's why it's called a workflow-based system, where business rules can be different and the workflow could be different. So it's a workflow-enabled system. And all the interface, the UI that we see, is completely configurable. We start with something today, we use it, and it has to adapt to the changing needs of tomorrow. So it's a configurable system. There are several visual modeling tools where we can create the changes. There is a document management system. When we speak about an e-governance or a paperless office, DMS is part of it. A secure environment. And the most important thing is it integrates with existing systems. There are a lot of very good systems available here, the admissions, the ACOE, CFR. So how do we integrate and complement the existing systems? And data-driven decision making. How can we collect data? How can we make decisions based on that? And finally, compliance. So there are so many things required from a compliance point of view. When we streamline the process, when we collect data, how do we ensure that on a single click, you can comply with all the regulatory needs? So before going to the solution demonstration, we have this addressing the needs of several stakeholders. For example, if I am a student, my complete journey is captured. For example, after I get enrolled, I pay my fees. Every activity, like I register for my course, I can add and drop a course, I can view the lesson plan. The way it works is departments would create a curriculum and then timetable is created. Faculty members who are allocated for a course would actually create a lesson plan. On this week, I'm going to take this unit. This week, I'm going to take this unit. So the lesson plan is created. And all the students who have registered for the course can actually view their lesson plan, they can view their timetable. And a lot of other things. For example, exceptions. If I miss paying fees, I can apply for late fees. If I miss enrollment on time, I can apply for extension. So this is from a student point of view. From a faculty point of view, whole range of services, including HR, purchase, and so on. I can apply for a travel, I can make purchase requests, I can create my lessons plan, I can communicate with my students. So each of these things would be a process app. So overall 200 odd process apps, which can evolve over a period of time. And from heads and directors, approvals are streamlined and simplified, dashboards, collaboration with people, and then for registrars and VC, a consolidated view across campuses, how you can have complete control and visibility of data. So overall, a platform where we address the requirements of several stakeholders through a view of a business process or a process app, how each could evolve over a period of time. So now we'll go into the solution walkthrough. So the first thing we would see is a student portal. When like in this case, we call it a student journey. So when I log in as a student, we will start seeing what all the different things which a student can see. Yeah. So I log into the system. I think you have to make duplicate. One second, please. I think we have some. Sure. So what we'll see is a student portal where all these services, what we call a business process, have been combined together in a very easy to use portal. I log in. If I am a first year student, I would have access to a few things. I can look at my lesson plan, my timetable. I can actually view my curriculum. I can do all these things. And it's actually a progressive portal. As I move to the third semester, fourth semester, the portal would have access to a lot more features as required. Okay, I will continue probably. So student portal would be the first part, then a faculty viewpoint. As a faculty, how can I access my students' data? How can I communicate with my students? And different HR activities which I can enable. All these things would come from a faculty viewpoint. Then we look at the configuration, how the system can be configured, and we can look at a VC view of the system.
It's coming through. The genset has been switched on.
Sure, sure.
So that was, if you want to back up, you can. Otherwise, it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I think, yeah, we are fine now. So this is the student login. Now, if you see here, the top, so this entire portal is can be viewed as different widgets. The widget on top, where it talks about the student's name and the program which he or she is registered to, the batch and the semester, all these things, and the roll number, that is the first part. And you would see who the faculty advisor is. So once a student is admitted, the student is allocated to a faculty advisor, which means that a faculty advisor can actually mentor them with all their clarifications during the coursework. So you will know who the faculty advisor is, and you could actually communicate with them, send emails, chat. So the collaboration between the student and the faculty advisor can happen through this system. And overall, as the student progresses, you can have the attendance, you can have the CGPA, all these things can be viewed in the first. So it's about a simple view of the student journey based on the context of the student. Am I a first year student or am I a 6th semester student? Then below, you have what we call the lesson plan. Like I said, there is a curriculum, a timetable being created, and the faculty would create a lesson plan, and that can be viewed by the student. What are my class courses and what is the lesson plan? First, next week, what am I going to attend? The complete lesson plan is seen. On the right side, you will have a timetable view, where the courses I attend, I will have a view of my schedule. So it's easy for me to go manage my time. That's the timetable view. And you also have a concept called to-do, where the faculty can be a course instructor or your advisor can assign tasks to students. It could be an assignment, or they say conduct a seminar, conduct an event. So I can have a to-do list where I can track all the activities which are assigned to me as an individual. And I can also assign tasks for myself. So the header, there is a widget for lesson plan, and there is a timetable and a to-do list. Then if you go below, there is a concept called groups and collaborations. It's very important today because students can actually be part of a group. By default, a batch would be in a group, and we can have special interest group. For example, machine learning or like civil engineering. We can have a lot of special interest groups where students can actually communicate with each other. So what are the groups which I am part of? That will be coming here. Below that is assignments, where my faculties can create assignments which I have to submit with the due dates. Right? So lesson plan, timetable, to-do list, and the groups, assignments, and finally events. This system has an event management framework where we can create events. Events can be of different types. For example, when a new batch comes in, induction is part of the regulation. That can be conducted as an event. It can be published, and students can come and register and join those events. So for me, these are all the relevant things which I will see. Then if we go further, I can actually look at my curriculum. The curriculum that's applicable for me to have an idea about how my coursework is going to be. The complete curriculum is seen, and as we progress along, once I take my exams, I can see my grades here, and if I pay my fees, I will see my fee receipts here. So the complete view is seen. And as a student, other than this, there are something called student services, where let's say if I didn't pay the fees on time, then I can actually make a completely online submission of those requests, what we call forms, right? Let's say there are several forms which are part of the academics department. So it's courses and department. Students can simply click and make a request, and that will go through a workflow. That's what we are referring to as a process app or a business process driven flow. In this case, if you see, this is the request for late fee permission. So each of these requests will have a screen. It will go through a certain approval process, and it will be approved finally. So from a student viewpoint, the portal, my forms, and all these things. So it's a progressive portal. If I come to 6th semester, I can apply for a project. I can ask, like based on the regulations, the functionalities would keep getting added to the portal. So this is the student view of the application. Now the second part would be the faculty viewpoint. Now from a student viewpoint, we looked at a journey where the system will guide the student throughout the journey. From a faculty viewpoint, it's about access to different services which I can avail as a faculty. So in this case, if you see, this portal has a different view. You have several sections. There is my profile. I can look at my students. I can look at my interns. I can have my purchases, and I can make a new purchase request. I can do those things, and I can have my HR activities, which is called a self-service portal. And finally, my projects. I can view what are my projects, what funding is there for me. So it's about my data, which I can see here as a faculty, the courses that I take, and all the actions relevant to me is displayed here. Now, let's look at my purchases. So here, the system will show all the purchases that you have made, and it will give you options for making a new purchase. For example, purchase less than 10 lakhs, greater than 10 lakhs. So we don't have to worry about what is the procedure required to make a purchase. Once you click this, you submit the form, the system will take care of streamlining the procedure as defined in the SOP of the institute. So it gives all my purchases and all the actions I can perform from here. So the idea is a simple view of my data and the actions I can perform from each of these modules. If I go to the HR side, so I have several things I can initiate. For example, I can look at my leave details. If I have to go for a travel, for attending a seminar or a conference, I can make a travel request. So it shows the leave balance, and I can apply for leave. I can come back, I can cancel my leave, and I can apply for LTC. There are several things, performance appraisals. I can apply for loan. All these things are part of the functionalities which the faculty can avail, which the university is giving. Each is called a service. It's a business process. It goes through several workflow as defined by the SOP of the institute. And the next would be my projects. So as a faculty, I can click on this and view all the projects which are currently ongoing. I will have a quick dashboard view where it will show the aggregation of all my projects, how many projects, how much money I've got, and you can actually drill down into these and go into details. So this will give an overview about my projects. I can also click and view the details of each project. So these are all the projects I can have. And in case I want to go into a specific project, I can click on this and I will see all the information about this project. So what are the purchases I've made, the summary, expenditure, the different commitments, receipts, all these things would be for each project. So I choose my project, I go to one project, I can look at the details about this project. So this is from a project point of view. So we have seen my profile, my students, mentees, HR, purchase and projects. And if the faculty is also an administrator, in which case probably as a faculty I may also be part of the courses department, where I can actually go and do some configuration. So I can have, so this it's more like a master setup where I can go create different masters. For example, in this case, institutes, campus, departments. So if a department has got some change, I can go here and I can add those things. So immediately it will be published and everybody can see it, right? So here is a complete view about the campus here. You can have vision, mission, gallery. Similarly, you can have this for each department, and all these things can be configured. If I am an administrator who has access to this, I will be able to see this. And from academic point of view, I can actually do a whole range of things. I can create a new program. Like some time back, I was speaking about offering 6 months courses or 6 months programs. So those can be created here. How can you create a new program? How can you structure the courses? How can you manage those things? So I can add a new program. There is a separate SOP for that. How do you add a new program? There's a workflow which has been defined. So you can go through that. You can see a 360 view of a program. So for example, here is my program. It gives you all the information, specialization, program code, and entry requirement, tuition fees. All these things can be set up. So this can be, and the committee meetings, everything can be configured. So if I am a faculty, I also have access to these functionalities. I can come here and update them. This would go through the entire workflow, and finally it will be available for people to watch. So this is about and from a faculty viewpoint, I can also have my publications, then my awards and nominations. This is something very important from accreditation point of view. How can we have a consolidated view of all the awards, nominations of faculty members, publications? It's very important for the university. So you can actually upload all your publications. It goes through a process of approval, and finally it gets approved and sanctioned. And this will be part of your NAC reports as well. So these are broadly the functionalities of a faculty. So we finished student, we finished the faculty, and now we also saw the configuration part. Then we go to the example here is the VC view. Overall consolidation across campuses. How can I see aggregated data as a VC, as a key decision maker? How can I have the complete access to data on demand? So if you see here, it's a graphical dashboard. How many specializations, programs offered, students enrolled, fees collected. All these are all dashboards which you can slice and dice. You can click on these things and look at details. And you can have admissions related thing, academics related stuff, overall CGPA, between this range, how many students are there. So this gives a quick way to actually analyze the data as a VC of the institute. And also the projects across. So here's admissions data. So based on the admissions that happen, you can quickly view the data. And finally, you can see, here, how many students have joined each of these things. You'll actually look at the quick view of the admissions data. And finally, the projects across all faculty members. you will have a summary view of all the projects, how much funds has been collected. So you have a very quick overview of all the faculties across campuses. So here we saw, so this again you can drill down and go deeper into each of these dashboards, right? Yeah, so we saw the student view, we saw the faculty view, we saw the configuration view, we also saw the VC view, and now the last piece where we'll spend briefly is about how we configure this whole thing. We spoke about configuration, so here let's take an example. So this is used by the IT team, typically by the Center of E-Governance, and we'll be supporting, and we can modify each of these process app over a period of time. So we go to purchase as an example. So we said every service is a business process which is actually workflow driven. If we take purchase less than 10 lakhs, you can actually go into the system. There will be a workflow which is driving this. So it's a drag and drop interface. So if you see here, you would see a fairly complex workflow which drives the entire purchase process. If the amount is less than 10 lakhs, you would use this process flow. This can be modified at any point by the IT administrators. You can also go change the user interface. You can look at the preview and you publish the application changes. So this keeps a way of continual operations transformation over a period of time. So that is about a platform-based e-governance system. Thank you.
That was a brisk walkthrough, maybe with a little bit of prompting for me. But I thought before we close this session, whether I should call a student before we, in the morning I went up to one of the volunteers and said, would you be bold enough to come up to the mic and speak a few lines as to what she thought of it. There is a student here, volunteer called Harini. She is here. Wonderful. Thank you. Harini, which year are you in?
I'm in final year.
Final year, which branch?
IT department.
IT.
Yeah.
Final year, IT branch, Harini.
So, good morning, respected dignitaries. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Harini. I'm a final year IT student. So, since we are using systems like ACOE and AUKDC for registering courses and for paying fees, since having an integrated system like this will be really useful for us. And in my own case, I had waited for 3 days for paying my late fee payment, where the system will automatically do everything digitally, where we need not to wait for the manual approvals. And I'm so happy for the first year, second year, and third year students, where all their manual works are now digitally converted by the system. And thank you so much for designing such kind of wonderful application for us, which will be really useful for us. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Harini. She and all the volunteers who've been helping, I just requested one of them to impromptu come up. Thank you, Harini, very much. I don't want to say more except that when we interacted with the faculty to tell us quite honestly some of the pain points, and often during the course of the project implementation, the lack of access to data and especially having to enter the same data multiple times for different reasons came up as a pain point. And of course, for the core academic services, they felt that a single access needs to be there to teach, counsel, collaborate with students, etc., and for their own purchase and HR services. In their own career progression, there was no easy way to document their own accomplishments, publications, etc. So all of these will get easily done in the future. Thank you, and I think you've had a flavor of this Golden Jubilee project. I'm requesting the volunteers to silently distribute a box of refreshment snacks, and meanwhile, we'll get to the next item on the agenda, which is the panel discussion. We'll set up the stage here, and then we'll request the panel members. Please wait for a minute. I will read out the profile of each of the four panelists and moderators for the panel discussion. Radha Ramasamy Basu, I must get her name correctly. Please come up to the dais. Radha Ramasamy Basu is the founder and CEO of iMerit, an AI data solutions company that works with the world's leading artificial intelligence companies to train their machine learning algorithms. iMerit use of technology, talent, and techniques provide the data that fuels tomorrow's AI. As a tech company, they are unique with employing more than 50% of women and over 80% come from under-resourced backgrounds. Radha firmly believes in the potential of youth, that by investing in learning and development, they can be an integral force in powering transformation technologies in the digital economy. She co-founded the Anudeep Foundation, which has improved nearly 500,000 lives through digital inclusion in the technology sector. Prior to iMerit, Radha was CEO of SupportSoft and 20 years at HP, bringing HP to India and growing their electronic software division into $1 billion business. Please give a hand to Radha Ramasamy Basu. Yes. May I request Dr. Rajaram Baliga to join us on the stage. Dr. Rajaram Baliga is Professor Emeritus Strategy and International Business in the School of Business, Wake Forest University, USA. He obtained his BE Mechanical Engineering Honours degree here in CEG along with us, followed by a postgraduate diploma from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, 1973, and DBA from Kent State University, 1980. He has taught at the University of Wisconsin, Texas Tech University, and most of all at Wake Forest University. He is the author or co-author of several books and has published extensively in leading journals in the areas of strategy and international business. In his career spanning 4 decades, he has received 17 awards for excellence in teaching, and he has engaged extensively with senior managers in consulting and training assignments in a wide variety of firms across the USA, Finland, Germany, France, and Singapore. Thank you, Rajaram, for joining us. Now I invite T.T. Narendran to join us on the stage. Professor Narendran obtained his BE Mechanical degree here at CEG along with us in 1971. Thereafter, he obtained his master's and doctoral degrees in industrial engineering at IIT Madras. For the next nearly 4 decades, he dedicated his academic life to that institution. As head of Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, he piloted the introduction of the MBA program. As Dean of Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, he pioneered the introduction of PG program on Visionary Leadership in Manufacturing, jointly with IIT Calcutta and IIT Kanpur. Professor Narendran's teaching interests were primarily in OR and OM. His research was largely on manufacturing systems on a variety of problems in logistics, and he has published several papers in leading internal journals. His other passion is Indian classical music, and he is himself an accomplished veena player. He will not admit it, but we know he was the most popular faculty member amongst the student community. No wonder he was called upon for student counseling and training, placement, and being the guide for 20 doctoral students. Vishweshwaran, please join us on the stage. Professor Vishweshwaran received his BE ECE degree here at CEG and followed it with Masters and PhD from IIT Kanpur. Thereafter, he joined IIT Delhi as lecturer in 1980 and retired as professor in 2015. Thereafter, he was invited as visiting professor at Indraprastha Institute of Information Technology, Delhi, and he retired in 2021. A chair of professorship has been instituted in his name at IIT Delhi. He was honored for a lifetime contribution to VLSI and embedded systems on several international stages. Vishweshwaran. I now leave the four of them to tell us about the future of engineering education. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to have this panel discussion on the future of engineering. I would appreciate it if you take a moment to be silent so that we can be heard. You may not want to hear us, but there are certain things that we have to say that I think will benefit you. We're going to start out this panel discussion by looking at the success of some of the past CEG graduates, and I will call upon Radha to talk about them. Radha?
Okay, good morning. I'm with 3 professors, so I have to be very respectful. But I thought I'd start by showing our young students here who think that those of us from 71 batch are sort of old and fuddy-duddy. So let's show them what we were like in 71. Let's give them all a big welcome and a big hand. I think we can be noisier than that. I remember Shankar himself was as noisy. Yes, Shankar?
Shankar was famous for that.
Yes. In fact, if you really want to know the history of this 71 batch, there was the first disco created in Chennai, then known as Madras, known as Cyclops. Yes, that's what this group did. And it is definitely a contribution to the city. But I thought I'd start off, when you talk about future of engineering education, sorry, I tend to do better when I'm up. When you talk about future of engineering education, we all tend to think of what went wrong, what was not good, etc. And there are many people here from different institutions. When I look back at some of the amazing people that came out of our Guindy Engineering College, we have Dr. Kurian. These people revolutionized the way that we look at society today and technology on society. I come from the artificial intelligence field, and Professor Raj Reddy at Carnegie Mellon really is the father of AI. Or one of our best cricketers. How you get from engineering to cricket, I don't know, Srikanth. Yes. And many others, some of them who have Venu Srinivasan, people who've started companies and really changed things. But I wanted to make sure that I also mentioned for many of the young ladies here, when the 71 batch came in, please listen to this one. From 1948, I think it was 48, to 1971, there were 35 women graduates from engineering, from Guindy. only 35 over all those years. In 71, we added eight engineering students. And I have two of my very good friends, Shanta and Rajeshwari here. So suddenly we went from 35 to 43. And these boys in the class didn't know what to do with us. But what I wanted to say is mention three people, not from the class, but Sarada, who we met recently. She's 93 years old. She was on the cover of Life magazine. You guys are too young to know what Life magazine was. And she was up there in 1957 looking at measuring radio signals, radio noise from the sun. And she's up there with an antenna. More recently, we should acknowledge ISRO's, when Chandrayaan was launched, ISRO's project director for our very, very prestigious Chandrayaan launch, Vanita Muttaya, is from Guindy. These are the women that we are very proud of. And I am particularly of my classmate Shanta, who's talked about leadership using the Beatles. Well, how progressive is that? And she teaches that and has created Roots and Wings, which shows the trajectory of women in engineering. Today, it's 45%, but I wanted to share some of that with you. So while we talk about the future, let us be really proud and celebrate the fact that we are from Guindy. I'm with two IIT professors here. I would stand up and share with you that from Guindy, we do exceedingly well. So thank you.
Thank you, Radha. You know, it's great to look back and say that we have had great alumni, great successful women, and one of the most successful of our alumni is sitting right next to me, and that's Radha. So give us a round of hand for Radha. Having said that, let's get on to the real topic of the day, and that is the future of engineering education. We are going to approach the topic from three perspectives: academic, industry, and innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm going to kind of monitor the process, and as we discuss, if you're familiar with the discussions that take place on TV where everyone is shouting at everyone else, we are kind of going away from that. We will try to manage it to some extent, but we are not going to agree with everything that's said between us, and I hope that you guys don't agree with it either, because I want you to take a challenging tone with respect to what we have to say. So we're going to give you about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the panel discussion to ask questions, and please be as critical as possible. And I think that that's very valuable in order for us to move ahead. I was particularly impressed by two things, and the Chancellor basically mentioned some of the issues that College of Engineering Guindy is dealing with, and I was really glad to hear that, because that says that he is willing to listen to the problems we have and try to make a change. And that deserves a round of applause. I was also particularly interested to hear what Jaikishan Jawar had to say with the Indian knowledge system and everything that has gone on before that we have kind of ignored. And while it's very, very important for us to ignore the past, to acknowledge the past, I don't think we should ignore the future. So I'm going to let Visweswaran take the lead in terms of trying to see where he looks at the future of academics in engineering. It's on. It's on.
Yeah. Thanks, Ram, for putting me on. I'd like to start at two levels. One, why did we succeed? And when you have to think about a future in education, can you not continue to do what we do? When we were students in our generation, what was most important but knowledge? I know it, I can do it. Information was necessary. Tomorrow, to succeed, is inefficient and insufficient. You need to know. Knowledge and knowing, as far as the Greek philosophy and Indian philosophy go, are you will not find a peak, but peak of 3 phases coming separately. So these three have to be together to be understood. As a teacher, I need to develop courses and make it visible that as an academic, I can see the industry, I can see what an entrepreneur is to do.
Yeah.
It is one thing.
Yeah, Vishweshwaran, that reminds me of one thing, and that is when I did my engineering education here, and I'm going back to mathematics. So the mathematics professor would come and he would say, this is how we solve a parabolic equation. I had no idea why the hell I needed to know how to solve a parabolic equation. It was totally unconnected to anything. And I think that that's a problem, that's the link that we are kind of missing, that we don't expose our students to the context and the importance of what we are doing. So if I'm doing a context-free kind of education without understanding industry, without understanding innovation, without understanding entrepreneurship, I think it's only half the education. And I think that that is extremely critical in my mind for the students to start understanding the context. And I'm really glad you brought that up because the three things really go together. And I'm glad that you talked about the tetrahedron.
I will go a little back to the previous presentation. He talked about workflow. What is that? He got functional blocks, and I was connecting it. That is not complete. It's like a graph. Each graph has a link. Each link has a state and a control and a condition. Right? A work plan or a syllabus will have list of topics. A teacher gives you the stitching, gives you the connection, the flow. That has to be teaching. And that has to be brought through the student has to be told first thing. You are not a student in an engineering college at all. The moment you step into an engineering institution, you are an engineer. You are a designer. You are a creator. You have your imaginations. When they say when you go to higher education, you should learn to forget and relearn. A teacher role is to do that. A teacher has to enable a student to find his way of learning, not tell him this is how you learn. Do the problems at the end of the book. Don't do that. Even if it's a core course, have a component in teaching that students do a project. Students read a research paper. They tell what they understand and express it to the class. When I say, for example, take
but on the other hand, Vishweshwaran, based on what Jaikishan said, I think we also need to look at it from an integrated perspective and a systems perspective. Because our traditional course of teaching has always been kind of siloed. So we kind of teach discipline by discipline, and it's very rarely that we integrate across the disciplines. Or, right. Then we'll let Narendra respond, okay? Yeah.
Think of an industry. Think of setting up an industry. What does it mean? Marketing, finance. This is a part of the electronics course, right? This is needed. They need to learn what all is needed, right? So the future of engineering is not siloed, but interconnected and interwoven, right?
Yeah, Narendra.
Thank you.
I think so.
Allow me to go back a little into the past and to talk of a few harsh realities before I look into the future. When we graduated, those who went into industries had 2 to 3 years of graduate engineering, apprenticeship, training, whatever. And today the industry says we have no time for that, to train your boys. At the other extreme, I've had a head of my institution 10, 15 years ago saying, don't keep on harping about training people for industry. Which industry do I train for? There's so many wide range of applications. We can only give concepts. It is for the student to apply. I think that gap was bridged earlier with this internship or apprenticeship, which is gone now. Nobody has time. This is one harsh reality. Come to another one. What has been the trend over the last few decades? We don't care what branch you study. Finally, you will go to an IT job, do a programmer job, make your money. This is one option. Then another group somehow get into an MBA program and try to
Go, like I did.
go into that direction. In both cases, goodbye to core engineering. One other group seriously interested in studies. But the moment you say higher education, it is GRE and AGRE. Go abroad. Sir, Professor Velraj said they go to IITs. No, sir, everybody goes abroad only. There are few people who have constraints. Because of that, they study in India. That is all. So, it looks as though nobody is interested, nobody is keen. So what are we talking about? No. We hope this can be changed, and we need to make a try. The first thing is getting people involved, and this requires effort from faculty, from students, and the way we prepare our children from school onwards. And today I know of high-end schools which train you that way with project and individual assignment and questioning and all that. By the time they finish school, they say, there is no college here where I can study. I won't fit into the system, and they go abroad after writing SAT, Students' Aptitude Test, go abroad. Now, that also has to be checked. Okay. One, we need to start our preparation from the primary school onwards, where instruction changes to discussion. And if there has been talk about playway method, about small project, I see that happening in school. But once we come to college, all of that seems to go down. I remember our physics classes here Professor Krishnaswamy, the poor man who would go on lecturing for an hour, the last 5 minutes he would stop and ask any questions. There'll be pin drop silence. And he say, that means you have not understood.
I can tell you honestly that I was in his class and I did not understand a damn thing. And yet, I got a high grade in the class. And I can tell you that grades without understanding today are of no use, and in the future are going to be even of less use. If you don't understand your material, you can forget it. I can tell you as a mechanical engineering student, I never understood what entropy meant. I could define entropy, I could tell you about the second law of thermodynamics, but if someone asked me what the hell is entropy, I had no clue. It was only when I read a book on astrophysics recently that I really understood what entropy meant. Today, as I was pointed out by Viswesh and Narendran, there is absolutely no value for information transfer. A professor simply talking on a subject, providing information, has very, very limited value, if actually no value for the future. Because you can get thousands of excellent information transfer lectures from MIT courseware, from YouTube. So what should the professor really be doing? I mean, that's the real important question. And as was pointed out earlier, tomorrow's education, especially in engineering, needs to recognize convergence. There's convergence between disciplines. So if I teach biophysics, it's very different from teaching biology and physics. So it's very, very important that we recognize convergence and get people to think across. And as was rightly pointed out, if they think in a vacuum without understanding industry, without understanding what is needed, I think it's going to be of limited value. I think Anna University and CEG can take the lead in basically making this kind of education feasible, where we focus on convergence, where we focus on integrative thinking, where we focus on really connecting industry, academia, and Radha can address some of the issues and the benefits from that.
So let me take this from the three professors to a very simple entrepreneur view of things, because that's been my life for a very long time now. So what's an entrepreneur? Basically, we start companies with very little money. So we're very focused on what is the problem that we're solving. And in order for us to be able to sell whatever it is that we are producing, products, solutions, services, whatever, it has to address the client's problems. So entrepreneurs very often don't respect as much the different fields of civil and mechanical. I was in the first batch, my batch. Our wonderful ECE, Electronics and Communications Engineering, we were in the first batch of ECE. Yes, Mr. VC, sir, it dates us a lot, but we started ECE here. So when we start to build things as an entrepreneur, just taking up what was just said by Baliga, you move from tech expertise in unique ways to be able to build solutions that are multidisciplinary. I wrote down a couple of examples. You need, of course, let me be very clear, you need the solid core. Without the solid core, none of us are going to be able to be successful as engineers. Maybe if you become a cricketer, it's okay, but your solid core is essential. So I don't want to leave the impression that those particular things that your professors are teaching you about the solid core forms the foundation. But it's like a body with millions of cells. Your cells are all unique, and then you have receptors. To understand, I went into biomedical engineering. You have these receptors, And it's these receptors that bring up the number of things that of the different applications of how the cells are used, and in fact, how they receive what's being throughout the universe, throughout nature, that's coming into the body. So looking at different technologies was a Professor Albiso who actually had a device to monitor the health of bridges and construction. So he very much came from the construction side. He adapted this and adopted it to look at monitoring recovery of bones after surgery. So he connected that into the biomedical field. There are many such examples. The sand batteries that have absolutely starting to revolutionize renewable energy. Renewable energy itself is a revolution. As our Vice Chancellor told us, that's what he's worked in. But then sand batteries allow you in like Norway, in very cold places and in very hot places, to be able to create batteries that store energy. I work in a field of AI, artificial intelligence, and yes, it sounds very esoteric, but it's not. It is in the application of AI and pattern recognition technologies and a lot of computer science into AI in medicine. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Now, in our company, we have data scientists. We have those people called IT people, Narendran. We do some good work. We code, yes, we code solutions. And then we have medical doctors. One of our employees is a Stanford University trained surgeon who's working in AI Med and in in medical applications. Sorry, I use acronyms. So we bring those three things together and we look at automation of radiology images so that you can help doctors to stretch this to rural and peri-urban areas. You look at AI in agriculture and different fields like that. VC talked about drones, drone delivery of medicines to remote areas and in accident sites. Do a lot of work, so that has geospatial technologies, that is computer technologies, and that brings these things together. The reason I'm bringing this up is being able to look at education that way, and this is particularly to the students here who are looking at their jobs, at entrepreneurship. Being able to open your mind as to what you're going to apply your knowledge to, I think becomes very important. The one other thing that I'd like to talk about, that's okay, is what do we, in entrepreneurs, people who run companies like me, what do we look for in students? And you talked about the skilling, Narendran, and you talked about how, what is it professors need to share with the students? I'd look at it from the employer's point of view. So when students come to us, if somebody had learned, and I learned a lot, it was really dated, Pascal programming. Do you remember that? And then we went into C and C++. Have no use today, no use. I mean, it's useful, but the entire way of programming is very different, agile programming. So what we look for in students is critical thinking, very curious learners. There is not a day, because of the field we're in, there is not a day I don't learn something new from somebody somewhere, or all else fails from Google Mashi, as they call it in Bengal, from Google and from professors. So being curious learners, self-learners, always wanting to learn something new to apply your engineering knowledge that you've gained at Guindy to the applications. The other thing with critical thinking, using judgment, these are called future skills or future pro. And something else, comprehension, communications, and confidence, triple C, we call it, because my company has 5,500 people. 55% of them are women in AI technology, and the average age of the company, thank you. I'm very proud of this. The average age of the company is 24.1.
That's a
It
young
is a
company.
very young company. You would not know that looking at me. But, and I've been told often of how I bring up the average age of the company. I have a very sassy employee base. 75% of the people, my employees of our young company are from low-income backgrounds. 75, yes. They come from rural, tribal, very low-income backgrounds. A majority of the employees are in India, and they're young. So the most important thing for young people, we say, are those critical thinking capabilities, self-learning, comprehension, and more than anything, risk-taking and a willingness to learn new things, to go take some risk and learn new things and apply it to things that you don't know about. So those are the two kind of major themes I would leave you with from the entrepreneurial side.
Thank you, Radha. Do you have any comments or reactions to that, Narendra?
One thing is, talking of entrepreneurship and risk-taking and all of that. Right from here, you talk of projects. We have to be tolerant of failures. Unless that is there, people will feel insecure, the risk-taking ability just will not come. We have to be fair up to a point. It doesn't matter. I mean, imagine, for example, I don't know how often it happens, final year students doing project work even as a team, fabricating something, trying to demonstrate, last minute it fails. Don't yell at them, please. It can happen to anyone. So, we have to, let's say, encourage a lot of initiatives, group level initiatives. Another important thing, I don't know how many people would even agree with me, but I believe that competition is the enemy of cooperation. And if you have a group to work successfully, the most important thing is they should not be competitive among themselves. It's a common occurrence in IT companies. The project leader says, you must work as a team, goes on talking about teamwork, and finally one guy gets promoted, all the other feel cheated. So,
that's right.
That's
right? So, we should have group efforts, we should have tolerance of failures, and that is the way to encourage risk-taking ability. That is the way to encourage cooperation. One of the, let's say, requirements.
You know, I would definitely agree with you. I was very fortunate in my first job to work for 20 years at Hewlett-Packard, the old Hewlett-Packard. And David Packard was still running the company. And something I learned from him was celebrate failures, because it is from failures. If you don't take risk and you don't fail and dust yourself up, get up and move on, you don't know what you have not learned. And this is so important, especially as I see a lot of students here and faculty. It's that risk-taking and being able to deal with failures, because you learn the most from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I would like to point out, and before I hand it over to Viswesh, is that if you think about it, the problems that we're going to be asked to solve are what are called messy problems. They're not very clearly defined. They don't belong to any one domain. And we are going to have lots and lots of trials and errors before we come to any kind of solution. So for example, you know, all the talk in the world today is climate change. What the hell do we know about climate change? How many disciplines need to be brought to bear before we can get some kind of a handlehold on climate change? Unfortunately, everyone looks at one part of the problem. So for example, in the US, people who drive electric vehicles feel very proud. We don't contribute to pollution, but somewhere power is being generated to feed the batteries. And that is something that these guys don't look at. They always look at it in a piecemeal kind of a fashion, try to solve it in a piecemeal kind of a fashion. And unfortunately, what happens is we make the problem worse. So I really think that the future belongs to people who can look at problems and deal with messy, complex problems and feel comfortable that in the process of dealing with these problems, you're going to fail. And you're going to fail often. But that failure really contributes to learning, and that's the way we need, and we can only move ahead. Vishwesh?
Thanks. I'll just get back to both Ram and Bala. Bala talked about failure. It's exactly what all of us know. How many of us here who ride a bicycle can put your hand up and you never fell down from a bicycle while learning? Didn't hurt your knee at any time. Nobody can. That taught you how to balance. Right? I'm sorry to shift language for a moment. Yes, I know. I do really what she said. Unless you fall, you will not know how to balance against the fall. There's nothing but failure. That's also a success. I've learned to balance myself. Right? This is something that one needs to understand. There's another thing all of us need to understand is an engineer is not a technician. Right? Who is an engineer as opposed to a technician? Technician knows how to use engineering tools, but he does not know how to create. The word engineering means creating. Right? Most of us in our young age thought that the term engineer came from the word engines. Right? Which is not true. That concept of a locomotive was called an engine because that was an engineering marvel, a marvel of creativity. Right? So one thing you need as a teacher to understand, every student who is qualified to enter my institute is creative. A student who gets 60% is not a moderate student, and the one who gets 90% is brilliant, and who gets 40% a failure. Sorry, not one of them is a failure. The one who got 40% did not know how to write an exam. Watch out. Given 6 hours in the 3 hours, maybe you are not better than a 90% student. See, everybody has a capability. Everybody has that ability. One needs to be able to see it. The future education, the agent of education for the teacher should be able to see the inherent strength of every student. And when he falls, tell them, get up, but if please find out how you fell. Don't tell him you fell down because of this. Then he doesn't learn anything. Give him an opportunity to learn how and why he fell. Next day, he'll teach you how to run. This is the future. Future is participative learning. Future is learning. The students contribute to your learning as much as you contribute to their learning. Thank you.
Yeah, Narendra, any comments on that?
No, I was just going to shift towards.
Absolutely, you can feel free to shift. This is a free country.
It's coming down to what would the college need to do? Content-wise, yes, we said that try and break the silos, try and bring in humanities, right? So many other factors, environment. And I was just reminded of Parkinson's law. Every solution creates 3 new problems. And
That's right.
that is the way mankind has evolved. You solve the transportation problem and create the problem of pollution. Now you try to solve the pollution problem and you'll have something else.
Correct.
Now, how would, let's say, our college go about implementing any structural change in the mode of instruction. Yes, today the routine lecture method is becoming obsolete because there are so many sources to learn from.
That's right.
Okay. And what a lecturer can deliver in a classroom, a student may find a much better version of the same thing on the YouTube.
Correct.
So, ideally, I would like to see the classroom become a place for discussion where the student has already learned. I know that as of today, our students do not have the maturity to do that and come as responsible students for discussion. Nor are our faculty equipped for getting into that kind of a mode where I don't teach you, but I only discuss with you. How does one go about bringing about the change? I think it requires a free discussion among faculty and among students to make some such changes come about. So far as what is required in the curriculum, that's a separate issue, but how do I change the pedagogy? That I think will also need to be looked at. Because as I said, we all come with a baggage, and changing that is also a point of discussion.
I think that's very well said, Narendra, and I think that's absolutely crucial that we are able to do that. And one thing that is favorable, I think, at Guindy is that the centers. I think the centers have a certain amount of autonomy. If the center directors are the right kind of faculty members who are willing to work with the student to facilitate their understanding, I want to use the word understanding of issues, understanding of problems, understanding of the discipline, I think we can go a long way towards the structural change. I also think, the students have to give up, based on what Vishweshwaran was saying, their fixation on grades. Grades don't mean that you've truly understood or truly learned. So I think we really need to shift our focus to true understanding, cross-disciplinary understanding, trying to look at things from a customer perspective, as Radha was saying, having that insight. Because let me add one thing to what Radha said. People don't commonly make the distinction between invention and innovation. So they all say we want to be innovators, but really what they mean is they want to be inventors. So inventing is creating something new. Innovation is when you can make it successful commercially. So a lot of focus, actually, if you really want to be successful, should be on innovation. And that requires true customer insight. So once again, I want to emphasize that we cannot think of future engineering education in a very narrow, micro concept. I think we really have to broaden the way our students start thinking and understanding that what is going to be their role in a world where knowledge is becoming obsolete very, very rapidly. In fact, when I did my PhD, I said, thank God I don't have to study anymore. But I can tell you that as a professor, I had to do much more work than my students. And the more challenging the student, the more problem it was for me, because I had to be even better. And better not in communicating, but better in terms of really working and facilitating with them to enhance their capabilities. So I think learning to learn is going to be the core of any education in the future, whether it's on the faculty side, whether it's on the administrator side, whether it's on the student side. The minute we stop learning, and to piggyback on what Radha said, the minute we stop becoming less curious, we are essentially dead. We may not be dead physically, but we are certainly dead mentally, and it'll be very difficult for us to contribute anything to our fields or even more generally to society as a whole.
I would add that if you look at, to add to your point, looking at real world problems and addressing them through technology, I know that sounds very, very much like that's what we've been doing forever. A lot of people believed until maybe 5 years ago that the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning was a very esoteric field. You learned about it in universities, You had an academic view of it, and then there were a few people in the world who use it. Today, AI pervades just about every field that we are in. Whether it is in the way you view things, whether it is in development of prosthetic devices, whether it is in precision agriculture to increase yield, or to be used in a variety of medical devices and real-world evidence of medicine, so we can actually take a lot of the medical, the innovations, not necessarily inventions, to broadly peri-urban and rural areas. So there are so many examples, and so much of this now, it's no longer just technology. It is really taking an approach of pattern recognition kind of algorithms to real world solutions. I bring this up because engineering is becoming, when we talk about the future of engineering, it's becoming both multifaceted in terms of fields, but it's also very much real world evidence related in terms of taking pattern recognition types of approaches to problem solving. So I think that looking at this in there is the academic side, working with industry, and this is one of the things that I would say to the BC, is bringing in the industry people to look at what can they use this for so the students get that experience. We benefit so much in industry and as entrepreneurs with young students, and so do students the other way. So we're actually making those applications. For me, frugal innovation is something I'm very involved in, and entrepreneurship around social entrepreneurship brings together technology, the expertise, and its application for real world problems. And I think that in a broad way to societal applications can make a real difference. And I hope, and I think we all would say this from the 71 batch, I know I can speak for myself, whatever we can do, we would commit to make this happen at Guindy, I still call it Guindy Engineering, at Anna University.
Thank you. I think on that note, we concur with what Radha said with respect to our willingness to help Guindy in any way possible. So I'll stop because we're running out of time. So any questions or comments, we'll give you a chance like we promised in the beginning. And you can address it to any panelist if you choose to.
Now we need a few students speaking up. Only students. And if you're all silent, then we'd feel very sad.
Yeah, please.
Oh. Student there, go ahead. Yes.
Shall I talk?
Yeah.
Student first, Radha? I mean, yeah, I'm always a student. I passed my degree 60 years back. And in the past 60 years, I have traveled with one leg in the academy and one leg in the industry. I have been into innovation. I have been a mentor, trained mentor, mentoring a number of industries, even today. And at 80, I was director in a couple of 1,000 crore companies, and I'm alive, all because of my CEG background. I have also observed over the past 60 years that engineering education has got a shift from totally knowledge-based to more of skill-based. Today, a student can get a good job only if he or she is able to learn new skills without much difficulty and also continue to learn skills. So the skill to learn new skills has become a very good subject today. And also I observed that over the years, the branches that started as a support or a tool for engineering, basic engineering, have become basic engineering themselves, like software. So the skill to learn new skills where the technology is escalating at a very fast rate has become very important. And the academy in the classroom should also train the students. You want me to stop or?
Yes, yes.
No, 1 minute. You will have your time. A little more patience is required. I'm not able to hear you because I'm old. No, just 2 minutes I'll take.
Excuse me, could you hold on, please?
Pardon?
The panel is asked students if they want to ask a question.
No.
I think it's only fair that given the paucity of time, we give them an opportunity to ask questions and for the panel to respond.
Okay.
So I would request that you probably hold off and have a private conversation.
I'll take a minute more and then stop. I'll stop here, but I'm very unhappy about it because the students should get the priority, but we know something about the students also. And the teacher, one thing what I differ is all information may be available on the internet today, but they don't become useful data unless it is filtered and given to the students by a teacher in the classroom, either online or offline.
We absolutely agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need some students. This would be very disappointing if there are no students willing to say something. You know what happens in the class when you don't speak? Somebody picks on you and asks you to speak. And I'm quite capable of doing that, so I will warn you about it. Shall I do that? Okay. Let's see. Okay, I have some students here, just behind you. Well, I just pick one. Come on. Come on, you. It's very simple. Okay, you're all going to be hungry today because we're not leaving here until you ask us at least 3 questions. Professors, what has happened to your students? Okay, go for it.
No,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad that I'm here today. Had a lot of good, had a very good experience today. Like, I was able to, recollect how you were in those, you studied some years back. Engineering was different back then, and that engineering thing that we're having today is something which is totally different from your side. So, what we are studying today is actually, I don't know, but we're just going through our curriculum, learning different things, but I don't know how it's actually connected to our real life. We learn physics, that's actually useful to our real life solutions. We're able to solve all these questions, but do you think that's actually useful when you studied physics those back days? You'll be able to solve all these questions, like you remember anything now? It's actually not even useful, right?
Can you share your name and what branch?
Yeah, I'm from MIT campus. I'm Neeraja, CT department.
Thank you, Neeraja. So, given that these are professors, so the worst one at this is me. So,
Let me answer that very simply. As a student, you don't know what you need to know. And I think that if you assume that whatever you're being exposed to doesn't seem important to you, I'm trying to tell you that we may not remember anything with respect to physics or any one of the disciplines that we study. But what you need to understand is that it gives you a way of thinking and looking at problems. That is the most useful thing that you will carry throughout your life. It's learning to solve an equation is not being a good engineer. That is the worst thing. Learning to think critically and solve problems is really working to be a good engineer. So I would say, take it in that spirit, even though you may not remember. We don't remember half the things we studied.
speak for yourself.
Okay,
No.
No, she may defer on half. Yeah.
I'll just answer you with a specific problem. We were solving a problem on networking, communication networking. The solution we got out was how bees collect honey and make their nest. We had a mathematical modeling which was very similar to transport problem heat and mass transfer. And that was a PhD thesis. You asked me, where does maths come, where does chemistry? It had maths, chemistry, physics, and everything. You do not know now. It's a responsibility of a teacher to tell you where it can be used, how it can be used. That is what we were trying to say. The future of education needs not just the equation, but the context. Do not teach them differential equation, but teach them the context, how and why, right? So your question is relevant. Where is it used? You will ask that question. This question I would appreciate you ask the teacher in the physics course.
Actually, like, apart from all this, I'm getting a satisfaction that I'm able to solve something, I'm able to, learn something new. Apart from like connecting with real life and using it later, at that moment when I solve something or when I learn something new, that satisfaction or that much happiness that we get after learning something is also important. So according to me, I felt that's really good.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'll use my privilege as the master of ceremonies.
Let me say, beautifully said.
Yeah. Okay. So, any closing remarks from the panelists? Or moderator would be fine. Yes. Yes.
Radha says one more student, but if we don't want to push, but we will be available in the audience down the road. So if you have any questions for any one of us, we'll be glad to take it. Shankar wants to keep it to time as much as possible. So I think we'll stop, and I thank my panelists, and I hope you... Thank you.
Give them a big hand. Thank you. We now go to a third part of our giving back to our alma mater, which is how do we connect to the past of CEG. And we have no better eminent person than historian Sriram, who I invite him to the dais. Please give Sriram a big hand. If you are in Chennai and you've lived for even a short length of time, you actually would be telling me we don't need any introduction to Mr. Sriram. Please leave it to me. Okay. Mr. Sriram is an eminent and highly respected historian on all subjects of historic and heritage value of our great city, especially of our music history. He too is an engineer, having obtained a bachelor's degree in engineering from Delhi College of Engineering and followed with an MBA from Delhi University. After a successful career in marketing and advertising, he joined his family industry in hydraulics and software. His interests are absolutely wide and varied, and so are his talks and books on South Indian music, the history of Madras, of leading local businesses and lawyers, and so many other small things which he dives deep into it and make very big, beautiful things out of it. And even of Freemasonry in India, some of you might be Masons here. In turn, he has done a lot of research and writing, and he contributes significantly to the civic life of our society, including leadership stints at the Madras Music Academy. Sriram sir, we eagerly await your talk on the history of the College of Engineering.
Let that be there. I'll take it when I need it. Or you can bring it here if you want. Who's running the slides? You'll do it. Friends, good afternoon to everybody. And thank you for being here to listen to the story. I take off from where the earlier panel left, the discussion on where we are all going and what are the skills that are relevant today. It was a very interesting discussion, and I felt very happy to have been a part of it, to have been here to listen to it. Now, how does an organization survive for 230 years? That is the story of the College of Engineering, Guindy. It begins as the survey school, the oldest technical institution in the entire country. It started in 1794. We are now in 2023. If an institution like this has survived all these years, it clearly means it changed with time. It did not remain the way it was so many years ago. Certainly, it is not teaching the same subjects that were taught in 1794. And that itself, I would say, speaks volumes of how an institution remains relevant in the times or in the changing times. Of course, being an educational institution, it will reflect changes a little late. It always happens that industry or thinking is a little ahead, and then it comes to the institution, and then it goes further. But a college that started in 1794 has a fascinating history. And I was greatly privileged to get a copy of the history of the College of Engineering, Guindy, that was written by the 1966 batch, which was published in 1991 by Ramakrishnan, Babai, and one more former student of the college. I went through that, but that was not my only source for the information, and then I went on to do a lot of research, and I was able to pick up some very fascinating snippets about this college, which I feel privileged to share with you today. We can start with the presentation. So this is your landmark building that you have in Guindy, but the story begins not in Guindy, but it starts in Nungambakam. And before that, I must also tell you that when the English began to start a survey school, the first documents have a very clear writing about how Indians are very bad in engineering. In 2023 or 2022, I don't think they would be so foolish enough to write these kind of stupid notes. The idea was that they were teaching the natives about engineering. They forgot that we have structures like this, which have stood for more than 1,000 years, and then structures like that with the construction of a dome, which they thought is beyond the possibility of any Indian, and it had to come only from Rome. And so they had an idea that the natives were a bunch of illiterate people who had to be educated and uplifted. So it was begun with a very colonial motive. There is no doubt about that. But the first engineers within inverted commas, because Indians did not use this term. For us, it would have been a Maistri, or it would have been a Kotanar or a Sittal or whoever it was who was doing construction. But when they came, the first engineers were part of the British Army. And they were also the first architects, so to speak. All the buildings that were built in the 17th century and the 18th century by the East India Company, They were built by army garrison engineers. And when they built to ensure that any building will withstand a cannonball falling on it or a battle is fought around it. So when you go to Fort St. George, you will find that every building has got a thickness of 4 feet. Every wall is 4 feet in thickness, 48 inches. That was the kind of, how shall I put it, over-designing that they were doing in order to ensure that they were taking care of the requirements at that point of time. The British began to conquer, and this is a classic example of an army-built building, the oldest church built by the British east of the Suez Canal, which is in Madras inside the fort of St. George. And there you have the Church of St. Mary. The walls are all 4 feet thick. The roof curves downward so that when a cannonball falls on it, it won't stay there, but it will roll and come down. So this was the necessity for such a design. This was the kind of engineering that was practiced by the army engineers at that time. At that time, in the 1700s, particularly from 1750 onwards, see, இங்கே எதுக்கு வந்தாங்க வியாபாரியா வந்தாங்க முதல்ல வியாபாரம் பண்ணுறதுக்கு தான் வந்தாங்க. அதுக்கு பிறகு அந்த ஒண்டை வந்த பிடாரி ஊர் பிடாரியை விரட்டுற போல என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா முள்ளாக எப்படி இந்த ஏரியாலாம் அபகரிக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி they began to conquer the areas. And it was not out of war that they were conquering. It was essentially out of treachery and fraud that they were able to conquer. And we were stupid. We were able to pass on whatever we had to them. Gradually, they found that they had a huge territory of land which they had to administer. And the first thing you do when you acquire land is you do a survey. Surveying is the first thing that even today when we go and buy a property, what do we do? EC irka, no encumbrance certificate. That's the first thing. Then patta. அது பக்கத்தில் என்னெல்லாம் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி இருக்குது. So this is the first thing that is done. So surveying became very important. Now the English were not capable of doing surveys in this hot weather. Imagine going out in summer in May and June and July, going around in the fields and finding out which part ends where and which part begins there, etc., etc. They needed Indians. So that is when the first demand for surveyors really started. And survey school became necessary so that you could train the natives in order to be able to do a survey. Appo kuda the noting is very clear. It says the Indians are incapable of thinking by themselves. They have to be told what to do. So they are very good in tasks where they will be told, you go and measure this, then you go and measure that, then you go and measure this, then you come back and tell me, and you Such notions existed among the people then. And so a survey school was supposed to be started. Colin Mackenzie, whose portrait you see on that side, he became the first Surveyor General of India. And he was the man who needed surveyors. And at that time, you had Michael Topping, who was the astronomer of the East India Company. He was the guy with the telescope who was looking at all the stars and finding out their positions around the Madras sky. He operated from Nungambakam in a place that came to be known as the Nakshatra Bangala. It was on College Road. Today you have the Nungambakam Weather Reporting Observatory, or the Meteorological Office. You have it over there. That was called the Nakshatra Bangala because it had a dome and it had a telescope, which you will see shortly. Now this was the measuring instruments that were inside the Nakshatra Bangala, where they were able to make measurements of the sky and the positionings of the stars and things like that. And this was the building in Nungambakam which survived till the 1930s and the 1940s. So this was the place where the observatory stood. And Michael Topping was here as the astronomer royal and the chief observer of Madras. And in 1794, the survey school begins over here with a set of students. Now they were all at this point of time either Anglo-Indians or they were orphaned English children whose parents had died and who were being taken care of in Madras by the East India Company's funding. These were the people who became the first students of the survey school. They were not, Indians were not admitted at that point of time. The first batch had a set of 12 students who came to join this place, and there they learned how to survey. Now in 1802, you had what was called the Great Trigonometric Survey of India. What is this Trigonometric Survey of India? For the first time, India was measured with heights, point of elevations, point of depressions, slopes, sea coast, everything was going to be measured. And that exercise was going to start from Madras. And the man who was leading it was William Lambton. Lambton would have a theodolite with him, and he would have surveyors who would go along with him, chains and theodolites, and he would start from College Road. From there, he measured the height of St. Thomas's Mount, went to St. Thomas's Mount, started from there, and that is how the great trigonometric survey of India began. And the man who worked with him was an alumnus of the survey school, Joshua Depenning. Today we have a company called Depenning and Depenning in Madras. They are one of the best known intellectual property rights legal firm. They trace their ancestry to this Joshua Depenning who worked with William Lambton. And they first, from here, they went all the way up to Tanjavur. They measured the height of the big temple. Then they mounted the theodolite on top of the big temple, from where it fell down and broke into several pieces, damaging a part of the big temple also. And then they had to wait for 2 years for the new theodolite to come from London. After that, they continued. Lambton died in Nagpur. And from there, it was taken over by a man who would go all the way up to the Himalayas. And he would survey the height of Mount Everest. And he was George Everest, and he gave it his own name. They said, what is the name of the mountain? Take it from me. இப்போ இந்த ஊர்லலாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எல்லாம் எம்ஜிஆர், அண்ணா, கலைஞர், அம்மா இப்படிலாம் இருக்கிற மாதிரி அவரோட பேரை கொடுத்துட்டார். அந்த மலைக்கு எவரெஸ்ட்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. So from then on, it became Mount Everest. And it remains this way. That survey begins here, and one of the surveyors came from this survey school, which is the College of Engineering, Guindy today. Then you had a man called, he came here, de Havilland. Today, you know, how many of you have seen Mount Road? I'm sure you all know Mount Road, Anna Salai. Where does Anna Salai start from? Anna statue. And then it goes all the way up to St. Thomas's Mount, correct? Now that route was given by Thomas Fiat de Havilland. Havilland was the man who was also another engineer who belonged to the British Army. And he left behind some very interesting buildings in this city. The most famous one being St. Andrew's Kirk. St. Andrew's Kirk, which is in Egmore. He built the St. George's Cathedral. He also built the St. Andrew's Kirk. The reason why I bring up St. Andrew's Kirk is that the St. Andrew's Kirk is just by the river Kuvam. And the soil there is very soft. The requirement for the construction of this was that there should be a dome in the middle supported by several columns. Now, every time they attempted to construct a dome, the soil being soft, the weight of the columns was sinking. And he didn't know what to do about it. He then decided to consult the students of the survey school, and some of them said that we have men who dig wells in Madras. They make terracotta wells. So what they do, they bring a ring of terracotta, they beat it into the ground, then they remove all the soil in the middle, then they beat the ring further down, remove all the soil in the middle, and they keep doing it till they reach the base, the hard rock. After that, nothing can dislodge this particular structure. And that is how the entire St. Andrew's Kirk was built. It was built on a foundation of terracotta wells. And de Havilland writes in his book that it is entirely because of the artificers of Madras. Now, the artificers, as we know, surveyors and artificers came from the survey school, because by the time, maintenance of water bodies was very, very important. You needed, so you started from a time when survey was required. Suddenly, you now find that maintenance of water bodies is required. So, water body na ipo enna pannuvom modalla and edathila or building a katti or colony panni adu or area ஏரியிலேருந்து ஏரியாவை மாற்றிடுவோம். அந்த காலத்தில் எப்படின்னா அந்த வாட்டர் பாடியை மெயின்டைன் பண்ணிட்டு வந்துட்டு இருந்தாங்க. இது நல்லா இருக்கணும், அப்படி இருந்தால் தானே தண்ணி வரும் அப்படிங்கிறதுனால. ஸோ த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ரிக்வயர்மெண்ட் வாஸ் யூ நீடட் சம்படி டு மெயின்டைன் வாட்டர் பாடிஸ். ஸோ யூ ஹேட் த கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்டார்டட் அ டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் கால்ட் த டேங்க் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட், விச் டுடே வி நோ as the PWD, the Public Works Department. It starts in the early 1800s as the tank department. And in that tank department, they began to employ the students of the survey school. So, எப்படி வந்து ஒரு relevance எப்படி மாறுறது பாருங்க. முதல்ல surveyor, then suddenly you find that there are hydraulic engineers. You don't call them engineers at that time. You are calling them artificers. So, they are now taking care of the various tanks and bunds all over India, South India particularly, and they are going around, they are doing surveys, they are taking care of the walls, the condition of the water body and all that. That's because of the students that came from here. Now, gradually, the requirement begins that you should have various courses. So you have you have an upper subordinate course and a lower subordinate course. The upper subordinate course was meant only for the Europeans, the overseers and all that. Lower subordinate course was meant for the Indians who would go do the surveying and the maintenance of the tanks and things like this. This is how the departments got divided. So from initially one department, now you have two departments. Gradually, the number of people passing out of this survey school is becoming 25, 40, etc., etc. And they now require a building of their own. This Nakshatra Bangla is all fine, but it cannot accommodate so many students, multiple courses. At that time, you have the Chepauk Palace of the Nawab of Arcot. The Nawab of Arcot was chased out of Chepauk Palace by the East India Company by sheer fraud. And they acquired the palace from him. And after that, they did not know what to do with the palace because it was the most impressive building in the whole city. They didn't want the most impressive building to look impressive. So they decided that we will now use it for public works department. We will use it as an engineering college and things like that. So the students were asked to come to the Kalas Mahal of the College of Engineering. At this time, not yet the College of Engineering, but still the survey school. And then, slowly, the students begin to join this place. Finally, in the 1860s, you have in 1857, you have the founding of the University of Madras. And then this becomes recognized as the College of Civil Engineering. It upgrades its degree to a Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree. And the students begin to operate from the Kalas Mahal, which is Chepauk Palace, just next to the Chepauk Stadium. It is still standing there. That building is still there where the engineering college was at one point of time. At this time, in 1879, you have a very interesting personality of whom not one photograph survives. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Davison Love. Henry Davison Love becomes the principal of the College of Engineering in 1879. And whenever he would go on leave to London, somebody else will officiate for him, then he will come back and take over, which is why when you go to your dean's office and you find his name there, you find broken track record, this year to this year, then again this year to this year, then again this year to this year. So Love effectively was principal of the college between 1879 and 1907. So he was here almost for 28 years. He was responsible for the well-being of the college. And after he retired in 1907, he wrote this book, which is called The Vestiges of Old Madras, a 4-volume book on the history of the city. And till today, it is the finest history ever written by anybody on Chennai. Nobody has been able to beat this. It's a 4-volume book. So 1 volume, 2 volume, 3rd volume. The 4th volume is an index to volume 1, 2, and 3. That is the level of detail to which this man has gone. So I used to manage for years with a free for download copy from the internet. This year in July, I was in London and I went to a second-hand bookshop and my wife told me, don't buy any books. The waste ellaam vaangaada appadinu solli she went off shopping somewhere. When I go in, the first thing, nee engendra inge vanda appadinu kekra mari and the 4 volumes smiling at me from one cupboard. So I go to that man and say, what is the price? Then he gave me a price where I fell immediately in shock. You know how things are in London, right? Everything is so expensive. But I couldn't resist it. Finally, I paid. And I bought all the 4 volumes, and this is the cover of one of those volumes. My wife was told much later. She said, Putti enna ore ganakkarde appdi ella appadidhaan ganakum. You cannot do anything about it. So Love remained the principal. Now Love, this house was where Love lived, and this is in Victoria Hostel Road in Tiruvallikeni even now, behind the Chepauk College, Chepauk campus. And this is where he wrote Vestiges of Old Madras. This is where he was principal of the engineering college. Now, the main reason why you are all here in Guindy is because of Love. Now, next to Chepauk Palace, next to the Chidambaram Stadium, what do you have? Madras Cricket Club, correct? This cricket club used to be virtually the owner of that entire Chidambaram Stadium at that point of time. Now, Love began to eye that property. And he said, my students need a cricket ground, they need a tennis ground, they have to have a better facility. These Englishmen, he was also an Englishman, but he said these colonial sahibs are playing once in a week, whereas these students are needing it every day. So I have to take over this property. That is when the government finally woke up and said, you know, whatever it is, cricket cannot be sacrificed. Engineering can go, it can become whatever it wants. Cricket cannot be sacrificed. So in 1908, just when Love was retiring, they made a move saying, we'll have to shift this college to Saidapet, where there is enough and more land which can be given to this college, and they can take it over and they can run it in whatever way they want to. So 1908 is when the talks really begin. Now, at this time, there is a very interesting paper of 1865 which gives you some of the early publications of the College of Engineering. It says Madras Engineering College. The first book is 1000 Conversational Sentences in Roman Tamil, specially adapted to the use of persons employed on public works, to which are added 30 selected stories from the Katha Manjari in the same character, arranged by P.S. Rajagopala Mudaliyar, Tamil Munshi in Civil Engineering College. Now, what is Munshi? He's a translator, Mozhipeyar Palar. Because there are the English professors, the professors cannot speak in the language of the Indian students don't know. So, kelvi keta ellaru quiet ah irukanga students ella. What is the question? I want students to answer. I want students to ask a question. Everybody is quiet. So, you need a Munshi to do the translation at this point of time. So there is actually a handbook. And later, when the Englishmen from this college go and work in the PWD, they will use that book and say, what do I say next? Eppadi irkinga? So, enga poringa? That kind of thing. So this was the kind of book that was being used. A short grammar of the Telugu language, because at that time, remember that Andhra also was part of this. So everything was working over there. You had earthwork. How to set out slopes for excavations and embankments. Calculation of the equalization of cuttings and embankments with hints on execution of this work, etc., etc. Anglo-Tamil primer. Students of the civil engineering. Then hydraulics. So you can imagine language was the first requirement. Then engineering comes way down below. You've got hydraulics down below. Then notes on canals and rivers. So these were all a set of books that they were published in the 1860s by this college. So they were becoming more relevant. So now you find technical books have started coming. Now early in the 1890s, you have this write-up in an American magazine about the College of Engineering, Madras. And it says now they have a mechanical engineering degree, they have a civil engineering degree, and this is the picture of the campus. Today you cannot get this picture for the simple reason that buildings have come all around it. This view is impossible to find of the Civil Engineering College as it existed in Kalas Mahal, in Triplicane, in Chepauk. So this was the way the students were, the teachers were, and the college was. Gradually, you find Indians are gaining admission into this, in the subordinate and then the senior subordinate, finally in the engineering course. So by early 1900, you find Indians are also getting admitted into the. You can see over here, 1906, February 13th, 1906, Maharaja Rajasri, K.V. Shankara Iyer, a past engineer student of the Madras Engineering College, is appointed apprentice engineer, posted to the Public Workshops, Madras. So this is how gradually Indians were entering the engineering service and they were gaining admission into Public Works Department. So this was the first big employer, Public Works Department. The next big employer was the railway workshops. 1857, the 1856, the first Madras Railway had come, Perambur Railway Workshops had begun, then Golden Rock Workshops in Trichy, then slowly companies like Binny, companies like Parry, these were all the employers where people were getting employment from here, and they were slowly getting placed in these organizations. In 1911, you had a professor of engineering called Sir Alfred Chatterton in the College of Engineering, and he was asked by the government of Madras to start a department of industries. This was the first time that any government in India had started a department of industries. And they handpicked this gentleman from the College of Engineering. He was professor of engineering here. They made him head of the Department of Industries. They were hoping that he will promote British businesses. This Chatterton, very different kind of a fellow. He was very influenced by the Swadeshi movement. So he said, what is wrong with Indians starting industry? For a country to be good, you have to have Indians who should also start businesses of their own. They should become entrepreneurs. All this Munshi, clerk, Babu and all is fine, but they have to learn how to think. They have to start businesses of their own. Now, the British businesses here were so upset with him that they lobbied with the government and closed the Department of Industry. So Chatterton came back to the College of Engineering. But Indians by that time were also members of the Central Legislative Council in Calcutta. So they began to lobby there, saying that the Madras Department of Industries has closed. So the government finally ordered that the Department of Industries has to open. Chatterton once again made the head of the Department of Industries. Chatterton now had been thinking for some time, right? So 2 years he had, so he came back and he said, the Indians will never start a business by themselves. The government must start the business. Let us run it for 2 years, then sell it to the highest Indian bidder, whoever comes. So make pencils. The first thing to start is pencils. Madras Pencil Factory in Tandayarpete. Bring wood from East Africa, bring graphite from Andhra, make the lead, make the pencil. 2 years they ran the Madras Pencil Factory very successfully. Then they auctioned it. We, Perumal Chetty and Sons, bought the pencil factory. All of us, I am sure, not you children over there, you are all computer, cell phone, iPad generation, but us, children in the first few rows, we all grew up on Perumal Chetty and Sons pencils. Then Chatterton said, Madras is a center for leather making. He initiated the chrome method of leather tanning and curing. That time there was a man called G.A. Chambers in Madras. He took that technology and started an area called Chrome Pet, where we have the Chrome Leather Company because of Chatterton. Then Chatterton said, aluminium is a good thing to make vessels out of. Why should Indians have only brass vessels, bronze vessels, silver vessels, gold vessels? Use aluminium, very cheap. Again, nobody coming forward. He started Indian Aluminium Company, Indal. And then it was shareholding, public shareholding was invited. All this was because of a professor of engineering in this college. Let's not forget that this man had, so many great things was done by just one individual called Sir Alfred Chatterton. Now, I come to a very personal story. My grandfather, V. Ramaiah, was a graduate from the College of Engineering also. In 1917 and 1917, his father was a school teacher in Tirunelveli in a village, and he had a monthly salary of 40 rupees. And there were 8 children. Practically no money. Grandfather sat outside the school in which his father was teaching because there was no money to pay the fee, learned that way, finally on a scholarship entered that school, then wrote the, whatever you call it in those days, the intermediate or the FA examination or whatever, gained admission into the College of Engineering at Khalas Mahal, which is where he studied in Triplicane, and for 4 years completed his civil engineering. When he completed his civil engineering degree, he stood first. And this is his gold medal. It is still with me, made of gold. And this is the slide rule that was given to him. I can't even carry it. And I don't know how to use a slide rule. I asked Shankar, I asked Gopal, and they said, we don't know how to use it either. So this is the slide rule that was gifted to my grandfather. And it says over here, V. Ramaiah, Engineer Class 1917, Prize for Mathematics. This was the slide rule. So grandfather then joined the railways. He became a bridge engineer, and later, that is the close-up of it where it says V. Ramaiah, Engineer Class 1917, and then you have his identity. This is his gold medal, the Divinton Gold Medal, awarded by the College of Engineering, Madras to V. Ramaiah, Hydraulic Engineering in 1917. And then he joined the South Indian Railway Company in Trichy. He became a bridge engineer. He was involved with the restoration of the Pamban Bridge, very importantly. That was one of his big projects. Finally, he became the first Indian to become the chief engineer of the South Indian Railway Company. And this is the difference that an engineering college can do to an entire family. And it is not just one family. It was brothers, brothers' children, sisters' children, cousins. Everybody funded on the munificence of one man who becomes a graduate from this college, goes out, rises to the very top of his profession. Then he passed away, he retired in 1951, then he became a completely different man. He spent his whole life on Vedanta and Sanskrit and all that, and he passed away in 1973. Years later, when his engineering degree was eaten up by white ants, and I felt so bad that the man who had lit a lamp in our lives, we had lost his engineering degree. But these two became very precious possessions of mine, and wherever my father got transferred, these two I would take with me as a student so that they wouldn't get lost. And finally, they are still with me, and I show it to my children. After that, none of us became a gold medalist, sadly. That's a different matter. But the point is, our future was made because of one man, and that is because of this particular college. So we are eternally beholden to what, and can you imagine how many families would have benefited like this? It's just one V. Ramaya I'm talking about. You can imagine every year people coming out, and how many batches, how many families would have been uplifted the way it happened to us. And so we look at it now, so the railways were the employers, the PWD was the employer, and so on. Times were, however, changing. So in 1920, the Consul General of the United States of America in Madras, Jose de Olivares, is writing a note back to the government in the United States of America, where he's saying the government of India has sanctioned the construction of a new engineering college at Guindy, a suburb adjoining the city of Madras, which is estimated to cost $486,000. And it is anticipated that during the current year, a preliminary expenditure of $28,550 will be made on this work. The college, when completed, will be equipped and conducted on the most modern principles and will afford ample facilities and scope for technological instruction in all engineering and mechanical branches. At Saidapet, then it goes on to describe the agricultural college. But this is the first note that I could find. This is dated 1916, about how the land has been transferred, the construction of the building has really started by this time. So we'll go ahead. And thereafter, you have this beautiful piece of architecture, stunningly beautiful, eye-catching. Whether you're on a flight, whether you're on a road, you can't miss the College of Engineering, Guindy, and that dome, and the way it is structured. So for long, I didn't know who the architect was. And then I read this book written by your alumni of 1966. They give the name as W.H. James, and I didn't know who W.H. James was. Then I realized he was the successor to Love as the principal of the college. So he was the man who really designed the whole building. Sadly, he didn't retire in glory. There was a Deepavali celebration by the students, and they had lit lamps, and he came and kicked the lamps away. And then there was a complaint made against him, and he was summarily terminated after this building was constructed. But just to take you through a little bit, in the 1920s, when this building was planned, the big architectural project in probably the whole world at that time was the construction of New Delhi. Rashtrapati Bhavan, Rajpath, Janpath, the Kingsway, Queensway, the houses of legislature, all the palaces of the Maharajas that would be surrounding it, the houses of the colonial servants. You can see this is completely inspired by Lutyens and Baker. And the way they were constructing New Delhi, a lot of those architectural elements are copied in this particular building. We have a lot more photographs. This is the front view. Then I'm, of course, taking coals to Newcastle. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, but I couldn't resist it myself because it's so beautiful from all angles. Next. 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 And you can see the Madras roofing style at that point of time. Even today, you don't need artificial ventilation despite all the heat that gets built up with buildings of this kind. It's a real wonder. And of course, the transportation engineering building, which is just next door. The reason why I bring this up is, sometime in the 1920s, you have the automobile revolution coming to Madras. You have the first companies that begin to retail and sell cars and buses. Simpson and Company, Addison and Company, Spencer's, Gordon Woodruff, George Oaks, then Rane, UCAL, Union Company Accessories Limited, run by Indians. And these are all companies that are India Garage, that are beginning to sell vehicles. So you need engineers who will take care of vehicle maintenance, who will head technical workshops. So you find that transportation engineering has suddenly made an appearance in the college by that time. Later, in the 1950s, when the Indian government begins a highways project of connecting all the state capitals with roads, you find a highways engineering department also coming up over here, which of course closes shortly thereafter. Again, the view from the dean's office, straight as an arrow, going all the way to the gate. Next, please. Once our friend James is summarily dismissed, you have the first Indian coming over, Nagaratnam Iyer, who was also an alumnus of this particular college. And then thereafter, we have a series of Indians who take over. So the college is, even during colonial times, the college is becoming Indianized. So you find more and more Indians are getting into the college as students. The teachers are also Indians. So from the time that they said natives are useless and they cannot run anything by themselves, you find everything has changed. We were teaching them a few things of how we were capable, we were managing things on our own. And I was, very touched by the simplicity of what was there initially. The initial housing, I think the teachers require a great round of applause for the simplicity with which they came in, the faith with which they came in to lead lives. They had a teachers' club which was a canvas tent for a very long period of time. And, they had these very simple buildings which were residential accommodation. Of course, from my time till even in the 1980s, I remember the College of Engineering Guindy used to have a set of workshops. College of Engineering Delhi used to have a set of workshops that were exactly like this. And we were subjected to the most tortuous practices over there of things that we were not used to, but we managed quite well. So all these buildings going back to a very, very early vintage. The other great thing about this is, in those days when they planned with a lot of sense of space and openness. They believed that educational institutions had to have wide open spaces. Perhaps they believed that it opened our minds. And the sports facilities, just amazing. And you've got Venkat Raghavan, you've had Krishnamachari, Srikant and others, and several others who came from this institution. But the sports facilities are something absolutely wonderful. Now, Indians were becoming bigger and bigger. Slowly, you had the story of V. Ramaiah. You have the story of A.V. Ramalinga Iyer, who became the first Indian to become the chief engineer of the PWD in the Madras Presidency, an alumnus of this particular college. And 3 rivers, even today, bear his imprint. The first is the Mullai Periyar, the second is the Kaveri, and the third is the Vaigai. All 3 dams were constructed under his direction. And he actually worked with Penny Quick in the Mullai Periyar. Then he signed the Kaveri Waters Accord, and he also constructed the Vaigai Dam. And the very interesting thing is, you can imagine how poor knowledge was that when the Vaigai Dam was constructed, those who were in the upper reaches of the Vaigai, that is before the dam, they took those who were in the lower reaches of Vaigai to court, saying that they are consuming all the water and we are not getting enough water up the river, on the hill. So they had to call Ramalinga Iyer to come and give evidence saying that மேலே இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு affect ஆகாது, கீழே இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு தான் affect ஆகும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, that judgment was finally accepted. So you can imagine how hydraulic engineering itself was in such infancy at that point of time. In 1940, you have the first set of women. So Shanta Mohan has got a blog. I got this information from her. Is she here? Madam, stand up, please. I wanted to acknowledge. Fantastic, fantastic. I didn't know that I will get to see you. In the last 2 months, I have gone to that blog repeatedly to read. And I loved your series where you've tried to trace the women from that Urvashi who studied in the Pune Engineering College, and then you have taken on the story of the lady who is in the third, the A. Lalita. A. Lalita was a widow. Her father, Pappu Subbarao, was a professor in this college. And Lalita was a widow with a child. The husband had passed away. She was still young. Pappu Subbarao then approached Professor Chacko, who was it Professor Paul or Professor Chacko? Professor Chacko. And finally, she was given admission over here, and she joined the electrical engineering syllabus because that was considered to be easier on women. So, for the first time, I also discovered there was a third lady. See, all the history talks about A. Lalita, and then it talks about Leela George. It doesn't talk about P.K. Teresamma. Now, the first time only from Shanta Mohan's blog that I was able to discover that there were 3 women in that particular batch in 1940 who joined. And Lalita's life is a story of great inspiration. So, having completed her engineering over here, she gets placed, she initially is not placed, so she helps her father with certain projects. And, there's no money because the father is, after all, only a teacher in this college, so she's not going to get anything extra. Finally, she gets placed in a firm in Calcutta, which is representing an English engineering firm. And so she starts off in their technical side and then goes on to become more of a marketing person, because she is then talking about their products at various projects. She becomes a spokesperson of sorts. And then in the 1950s, when there is the first convention of women engineers in Switzerland, she goes and acts as a representative. She's there. And she makes a speech saying that 100 years ago, if I would have been burnt along with my husband. Now I am here standing as an engineer. And she then travels to England, where she goes to the parent company, works in Calcutta, finally retires, and then dies very soon after retirement, sadly, because of an aneurysm. But that particular life was very, very impressive, and I would not have got to know all this without Shanta Mohan's blog. Great, madam, great work. Mr. Muttaya would have been so happy to have met you. Sadly, he is not here any longer. Yeah, next. Now, independence is arriving, and just around the time of independence, we have Indians investing in engineering itself. So, Raja Sir Annamalai Chettiar in 1946 starts the Annamalai University's engineering college. Similarly, you have one other college coming up in Coimbatore. Immediately after independence, you have KVAL RM Aragappa Chettiar starting what is called the University College of Technology, which later becomes the Aragappa Chettiar College of Technology, which is just your neighbor. And then we also have C. Rajam starting the Madras Institute of Technology. Stories of great personal sacrifice. Each of these men driven by vision and passion, willing to sell their houses, willing to get rid of their businesses in order to ensure that education is provided for people whom they did not even know. So, K.V. Aragappa Chettiar was actually dying, and he had sold everything in order to ensure that his institutions would carry on. C. Rajam sold his house on Radhakrishnan Salai in order to start MIT, and that is how these institutions really began. And then, in 1958, you get this news item which says, Higher Institute of Technology, land assigned in Guindy. This is the IIT Madras. And just see the reason given down below, that why has this been given? 407 acres of land in Guindy from the Raj Bhavan, etc., etc., etc. Then it says it will be recalled that the coordinating committee of the All India Council for Technical Education had recommended that the Southern Higher Technological Institute be located in the city of Madras. And in order to be of prompt assistance to the Government of India, the Madras government has offered free of cost a suitable site in Guindy, where the Government College of Engineering, with a tradition of over 100 years, that's this college, is already there. And then the University College of Technology, with its advanced studies in chemical engineering and textile technology, and the Central Leather Research Institute are already located. So if an IIT comes here, it's only because of the College of Engineering Guindy already being here. It provided that infrastructure, without which none of this would have been possible. And then, of course, a series of wonderful 1950s and 60s constructions in this campus. My love for heritage buildings always takes greater priority. Sometimes you have these hostels, and then the chemistry block, sorry, not the hostel, the central workshop, which is so inspired by Russian, architecture, communist architecture of Russia. The central, and even that man standing there against the wheel holding up the tools is so communist in the way it is, it's been designed. And of course, in 1971, when they built a parallel block, such sensitivity to architecture that you can't make out that the old block in front is built in the 1920s, the block at the back is built in 1971. 51 years later, such sensitivity in design. Of course, they destroy that E. The E for engineering, which was the pattern of the old building, is destroyed by the other building coming up behind it. But, you know, you have to account for progress. These things will happen. And then the alumni. So the first time I read about an alumni is 1903, when I read 2 students came and attended an old boys meeting. Now, after that, what happened, I don't know. But then suddenly you find in the 1940s and 50s, the alumni slowly begin to give back to the institution. And you find buildings like this, the Hall of Gines, 1968. Then you've got the Gind Engineers or whatever of 66, and so on. So gradually, the alumni coming back to contribute to the college. Now, in the midst of all this, the college syllabuses are not silent. So you've had the civil, you've had the mechanical, you've had the electrical. You find in the 1950s, as I said, the highway engineering came. Then you also find telecommunication engineering. This was the precursor to the electronics. And they were all getting employed in All India Radio, Doordarshan, and other such organizations which were dealing with telecommunications. So therefore, you find that the syllabus has once again taken a change and is now reflecting what is really required in the 1950s and 60s. And look at this one. This, again, classic Le Corbusier inspired, it's like something out of Chandigarh, where you find buildings exactly of this kind, the Vivekananda Auditorium. So once again, I look back at the arts contribution of the college, and I find that the first plays were staged in the 1940s. Lalita herself has spoken in an article about how for the first time they had women acting as women on the stage in the College of Engineering, Guindy. Otherwise, it was men acting as women. And from then on, I believe this arts wing was located in the hall of Geodesy, which is in the main building. Then it becomes part of where the State Bank counter is today. And finally, it moves into this wonderful auditorium where I myself have come for so many events in the past. So it's a beautiful example of how very non-invasive but modern architectural styles also being part of a very historic campus. And then, of course, the sports center, which is a totally modern structure. In the midst of all this, we must not forget Professor K.S. Hegde. Absolutely, your principal. And Professor Hegde, who was not just College of Engineering, Guindy, he would leave his impress on Mysore, he would then come back, leave his impress on the MIT, a great educationist. And I had the privilege of meeting this old man in the 1990s, just shortly before he passed away, a couple of years. He and I were members of the same Rotary Club, and he would make an occasional appearance, and I got to know about his greatness, but he would not talk much about it, you know. He was a man of very few words. He would let others talk about him, but he wouldn't say anything. Na indha mari panninella sollamatta. But I think lots of students carried forward his legacy. He was here for 5 years. But that was enough for an entire generation to be inspired. And after that, you've had any number of other great principals and deans and all that, of whom I don't really need to mention. Just coming towards the end of the presentation. So, you know, then you had electronics and communication, and then you've had automobile. Then you find that this was, incidentally, this was the first college in India to start the telecommunication engineering section. And then when they begin the printing technology in 1983, they claim that they were really the first once again, of which I don't know whether that's an entirely accurate statement, but they say that they were the first. I'm sure none of this would have happened without the influence of the alumni coming back and giving feedback about what changes was coming across in this whole world and what else was happening. Next slide, please. In the midst of all that, we have somebody like Dana Berg, a philanthropist from abroad, coming here and ensuring that a building on ocean technology and the environment-friendly sciences would get a completely modern structure being built in the midst of this wonderful campus. So the college, in my opinion, is just not struck in time. It has changed over the years. Of course, in 1978, it becomes part of what is called Anna University. And ever since then, in my opinion, People talk about Anna University, but they don't realize that the College of Engineering Guindy is a center of excellence within Anna University. It's not as though this is Anna University by itself. This is a college of excellence, a center of excellence which is within the university. So there is a big difference in when you look at it that way. So the institution itself, in my opinion, I come to the last slide, where, remember, in the 1980s, you had what was called the noon meal scheme, which M.G. Ramachandran brought about. And in my opinion, that was the greatest game changer possible, though at that point of time, everybody mocked him for what he was suggesting. But this was a man who had known poverty. And so he brought in what was called the noon meal scheme, and that brought an entire generation of students into education. So Tamil Nadu really transformed itself into a center where people were educated. You had a large literary base. The other, of course, became the privatization of the engineering colleges, and that ensured that there were many colleges available for admission. So, one college or two colleges or five will never be able to do what 100 or 400. The quality of education may vary, but there is a fundamental basis from which those who are capable and those who are willing to apply themselves can rise to greater heights, provided that education is given to them. That starts from the College of Engineering, Guindy, in my opinion. And in 1992, when India liberalized and the foreign companies were wanting to invest here, who were the first people to come? Ford came, and then Hyundai came thereafter. They came because there was a trade body, there is still a trade body here called the Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's the second oldest chamber in the whole country, started in 1836. And the business leaders who were then leading the Madras Chamber, they presented a paper to the Chief Minister. At that time, it was Jayalalitha. They said that the state is not doing enough to invite foreign investment, and the investments may go somewhere else. Much later, in 2008, I had the privilege of going through that document. And it says very clearly, it lists the College of Engineering, Guindy, as one of the talent pools available in this region, which can transform this particular area into an industrial hub. It was a wake-up call. The government then went out and welcomed Hyundai and Ford later, Ford and Hyundai in that order. The engineering pool from all over the state, including the College of Engineering, really is what gave them that strength to come here. And today, Chennai makes 3 cars every minute and 1 heavy vehicle every 90 seconds. It also supplies 33 1/3% of the automobile components made in the entire country. I don't think this would have been possible had it not been for a technical base that existed. And the base for that base is this College of Engineering, Guindy. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Sriram. May I request our alumni, Hanu Reddy, to come up to the dais to present a plaque to Mr. Sriram.
What a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for taking care of the slide.
Before we come to the vote of thanks and to the national anthem, I would like to make two announcements. One is to the 1971 alumni. It's only to them that after this program is over, they should proceed as quickly as their legs would carry to the stadium for a 1971 CEG alumni group photograph. And the second is a request to our Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Dean, along with Javar, Gopalan and Mohan Hedi, that after the national anthem to please come up to the dais for a group photograph. Thank you, and I now request Arun Krishnan to please come up and propose a vote of thanks, which will be followed by the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizing committee, it gives me great pleasure and honor to propose a vote of thanks. Firstly, I thank Dr. R. Velraj, our Vice Chancellor of Anna University, for the inaugural address. And, sir, it's the implementation of this project and success of the project, of the e-governance project, relies on your support and drive for this project to make it a success. And as you aptly put, to overcome the hurdles. Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. G. Ravi Kumar, Registrar, for your address and for your communique to the 4 constituent colleges. Thank you once again, sir. Dr. L. Sugandhi, Dean CEG, thank you for your exemplary support for the e-governance teams, especially in times of need. It really wasn't a slip of the tongue when my friend R.K. Shankar referred to you as Dear Dean. I thank the support teams of Anna University for providing us with access to the facilities and services to make today's inaugural function a momentous and unforgettable occasion. We thank the deans of MIT, SA, SAP, and AC Tech. Are they present? Thank you very much, sir, for coming. They have assigned students from their colleges to attend the function, and with that, they have set aside their academic commitments. Thank you. Our thanks to the press for covering this event. Are they there? Anyway, I'm sure they will cover it sooner or later. Our thanks to the vendor, Cognitive Platform Solutions, for the demonstration. Thank you, Chandra. It's been trying. I'm sure you'll prevail and make this a roaring success. Our thanks to our alumnus, Abhirami Ramanathan and team for videographing this event and live streaming, and to Hanu Reddy for all the hospitality which you're going to enjoy. We thank Ramanujam Computer Center for hosting the coverage of this event on the university's YouTube channel. Our thanks to eminent historian V. Sriram. That was a spellbinding talk, and I learned so much today about our college. You summarized everything with just with 3 words. I mean, that CEG is the center of excellence in Anna University. I mean, it's more than 3 words. Thank you, Radha Basu, G. Vishweshwaran, T.T. Narendran, and Rajaram Baliga for your informative panel discussion. I tried to get some students to ask questions. They will probably send you questions by email or WhatsApp. And I think they prefer WhatsApp and other social media. Our thanks to the heads of departments and faculty members. I even see the
Director of Physical Education, the sports, Professor Swaminathan was here earlier. Oh, he's very much there. Thank you, sir, for coming. It's the support of all of you which will make the e-governance project a success. We need your support, sir. We need the teaching faculty to really support this. The student volunteers of CEG and other campuses, your exemplary services today has made this event possible. Thank you very much. We thank our students who are going to use this platform. The success of this platform will be shown when you use this to know when your next class is scheduled. Then finally, this project required quite a lot of funding, and our alumnus, our batch of 71 have come together, pooled the resources, and made it come a reality. So thank you very much, and good day.
जनगणमनाधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाता जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Yes, thank you, sir. Mohan Eddy, R.V. Gopalan, Jai Kishan, please bring them to the dais. VC sir, please come up, and Radha, please release VC. Hi Shanta.